Okay. We're at 6:45, so we're going to call the meeting to order. Do we have any announcements?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I just want to bring your attention to a special city council meeting that happened on Monday. And it was to allow our city attorney to talk about public hearing process with the council, kind of give them some training on public hearings and what you can and can't do. So it's just a really good thing for you. If you want to look back on that, it's some really good direction as to what should happen for a council meeting and what you can and can't do. Excuse me, a public hearing, not a council meeting.
So it's the same thing we do here,
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
No other announcements? Okay, the minutes. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are you voting, Steve?
Brett said aye, too.
Okay. Did you say aye, Brett? Okay. Minutes are approved. Okay, report on council actions. You're filling in for Randy,
I assume.
or is he?
All right, Chairman and Commissioners, the December 14th meeting, there were several actions taken, and one of those was to reappoint Commissioners Kehoe and Commissioners Miller, and so we just wanted to congratulate them and thank them for their service. And then what? I would not say that. And then just wanted to bring your attention to the fact that Drew Morgan has been appointed to replace Adam on the commission. And so Drew is in the audience today, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him before we started, but it may be good for us to, Drew, do you want to introduce yourself to these guys, or are you? Do I have to go up there?
It's a public meeting, yes. You have to-
Yeah.
Move this down. Drew Morgan, been resident in Nampa pretty much all my life. I work locally as a structural engineer, and I'm excited to serve. That's about all there is to know. So appreciate you having me and look forward to working with you. Thanks.
And he'll be here in January for the first meeting, okay?
Yeah, and again, I just wanted to thank him for his service, and I just think it's amazing that we have good people like you guys to serve and do so volunteering and not getting any benefit from being up here, but just helping your community. And I just want to thank you again. I think that's incredible.
That's the benefit.
Yeah, there is the benefit. Yeah, no financial benefit, I should say. And then there was a request for reconsideration of an annexation and zoning to RD, and this one was for Wood Poppy subdivision off of North Side, and this was recommended by you guys to the council. They didn't like the layout originally. I think I already reported that back to you. They didn't like the densities, but the applicant wanted to have it reconsidered in order to provide an annexation path for another project. So they could come in under annexation, but then have to go back through the platting process before you. So you may see that back again, and it will need to be different than what they proposed originally. But just wanted to bring your attention to that. That will be considered by City Council. I can't remember when it's scheduled, but it will be considered again by City Council for annexation. Public hearings, several were approved. The first one is annexation and zoning to RD zoning, and that was subdivision preliminary plat for Magnolia Estates. And that one was right off of North Side, really close to that one, that last one that we just discussed. The next one was they approved the annexation and zoning to BC IL, RMH, and RS6. And that one was for Trestle Creek subdivision. So they approved the DA. Let me see. I'm looking through our notes here. Oh, yes. The DA excluded the uses of alcohol, liquor, tobacco, vape shop, and they required a 20-foot landscaping strip with a 6-foot fence along the northeast border. The next one was they approved with layered landscaping and fence along the eastern border, 3515 Alamo Lane, and this was for the Fenway subdivision. That was for 85 single-family lots. And then they approved a comprehensive plan map amendment from commercial and medium-density residential to residential mixed-use designation, and zoning map amendment to adjust the boundaries of the BC zone, the development agreement, and this one was Franklin Village North subdivision. You saw that one and recommended it. The only one that they denied was the annexation and zoning to RS6 and subdivision preliminary plat for Locust Grove subdivision. This is the one near Lava Falls and Lava Springs. And it was the one where the county subdivision was just to the west of it. There was a lot of opposition from that group, and they just didn't feel like the densities were warranted there because of the lower densities in the county subdivision. And then the last one was approved was the zoning map amendment from BC to RP and subdivision preliminary plat for Diamond Peak townhouses. So that was approved, and then several ordinances were read, and those are moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, we have to do elections tonight. So people can make nominations and it has to be seconded and then we will vote. So we can take nominations for chair and then vice chair. So I'll open it up.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that,
You're making a nomination, or you can make it.
no, I would, I'm gonna nominate Peggy Selman for chair for another year.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other nominations?
Yeah, I nominate Steve Kehoe.
Okay. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second.
I say, you can second.
You, Steve, you can second.
Okay. Any other nominations for chair? Okay, vice chair. Oh my goodness, don't all talk at once. Nobody wants that.
Madam Chair, I'll nominate Jeff Kirkman for vice chair.
Second.
Yeah, I'll second that one.
Any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, so we do a roll call vote for the chairman position. Karen, is that right? Do you want to call the names or do you want me to? I'll let you.
So this is for Selman as chair, correct? All right. Franklin? Garner?
Aye.
Kehoe? Kirkman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Turner?
Aye.
Van Acker?
Yes.
Okay, and there's nobody going against Jeff for vice chair, so I guess we default to not having to have to vote.
All in favor?
All in favor of Jeff as vice chair?
Aye.
And then do we have to make a motion now to install the officers, Rodney? Or is that all we had to do? Okay. All right. Okay, so that takes effect in January at our first meeting. Okay, Business item number 2, a 1-year extension of Spring Hollow Ranch subdivision. Christie.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This one's pretty basic, standard 1-year extension request for Spring Hollow Ranch subdivision number 2. It is located off of Star Road, kind of central to the Spring Hollow development that's happening out there. They are requesting a 1-year extension to November 16th of 2022. They're still in the process of building Phase 1, and they're just not quite ready to start selling lots for Phase 2 yet. They were approved for annexation and zoning in August of 2016. The preliminary plat was approved in June of 2019, and Phase 1 recorded in July of 2021. As a refresher, the project consists of 13.95 acres, has 74 buildable lots and 8 common lots, and staff would recommend the approval of this extension with the original conditions. I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Christie?
What was the date of the original?
November 16th, 2021 is when it expired, so it needs to be extended for a year to 2022.
15th or 16th?
16th.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we grant the 1-year extension of Spring Hollow Ranch subdivision number 2 final plat to November 16th of 2022.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the 1-year extension for Spring Hollow Ranch. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
I got 3 minutes to 7, so we'll wait. We can't start public hearings until 7 o'clock. And when we do start the public hearings, there's sign-up sheets in the back if you want to speak, or even if you don't want to speak, if you just want your name on the record as for, against, or undecided, you can sign up on those sign-up sheets. We have 8 items tonight to go through in public hearings, so it's going to be as long as it takes to get through what we need to do. So I appreciate you guys being patient with us and not talking when we're talking and letting us get through the meeting as quickly as we can. We don't want to keep anybody here any later than we have to. And if we have a large group to want to speak, we have 3 minutes is what you're allowed to come up and testify for. And I'll have a little sign that will tell you when you have 30 seconds left and when your time is up. And, we try and get you to tell us everything, that you are concerned about. But if you agree with the person in front of you, you don't need to repeat everything they said. So if you're on the same page as other people that have spoke, just tell us that you agree with them, and here's the 1 or 2 items that you want to add. And that would just make it go faster for us. So thank you.
I've got one. Go anywhere.
Okay, we have 7 o'clock, so let's start with public hearing item number 1. Do we have the applicant here for Terrace Falls?
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. My name is David Bailey. I'm with Bailey Engineering. My office address is 1119 East State Street in Eagle, Idaho. And I'm here tonight representing the developer and owner, Cleve Cushing, of the Cushing Family Living Trust for the Terrace Falls subdivision. If you put that landscape plan up for me, or the,
Yeah, can we bring that up? I have it on my screen, but.
okay, great. And the Terrace Falls subdivision is a 46-acre parcel that's located in southeast Nampa, north of, on the north side of Locust Lane and east of Happy Valley. You'll be familiar that recently the Hayden Homes project was completed on the south side of Locust Lane down there. So this property has been in the owner's family for some time, and they're looking to develop this, and they looked at getting ahead of the game several years ago. And the developer brought the property in, talked to the city about providing water and sewer service to the property, went through the process of engaging in a development agreement or with the city such that they would present the project to the county and then get city services provided with an agreement to annex when they became adjacent to city limits. So as we were looking through the process and doing the design work on the subdivision, the Hayden Homes project was completed to the south and gave us an annexation path. So we moved forward with the project with a direct application of the city that you have before you now. So the project, as I said, consists of about 46 acres. We're bounded by Locust Lane on the south. The Reidenbach Canal goes all the way around the west side and the north side of the property on this, and we're proposing 97 buildable lots on the 45 acres. So that comes out to but just barely over 2 units per acre. And the developer's request and the initial design on this is that all are minimum 12,000 square foot lots. And the average lot size is over 13,000 square foot on this. And we had designed it actually to the city of Nampa's RS-12 design standards, looking to do some really nice product out here and some really nice lots in this area. Access off of Locust Lane. As you can see, for amenities, we have some pretty significant pathway, all the way, a 20-foot wide pathway outside of Nampa Meridian's easement, all the way around the Reidenbach Canal, and then along the east side of the property, 20-foot wide common lot, 8-foot wide pathway, and then down the east side back to Locust Lane. And then the site is bisected by a canal, and we had proposed putting a pathway on either side of that. Nampa Meridian's comments came back that they want us to actually tile that entire canal through there, so that it'll still stay open space, but we'll probably only put one sidewalk through there, you know, as a result of that on the piece there. The idea is probably to develop the project in 2 phases to be completed. The sewer and water services, as I noted, had some extensions to them, so they're located in Happy Valley, actually. So they need to come back down to Locust Lane and then down Locust Lane. The developer will work with the city and the other developers out there to make sure that's done. And in fact, I happen to know that the design is well underway on all of those. I am the engineer on the Hayden Homes project as well, or my company is, so I'm familiar with their progress on that. So we think we have a really great project. We think we certainly meet your comprehensive plan. We are asking for an RS 8.5 zoning on this because the comprehensive plan really doesn't support the RS 12. Notwithstanding the fact that we have an RS 12 subdivision in front of you, lot size, and we think it's going to be really nice. So I appreciate Doug's work on the staff report on this, and we don't have any objections to any of the conditions from the staff report, and I'd stand for any questions you have.
I just want to know if you're filming Hallmark movies there, because all the streets sound like all those Christmas Hallmark shows.
Oh, okay.
Snow Creek Falls.
I have to admit, I gave up on naming streets and subdivisions a long time ago, but we still have some clever people doing them at times, so.
All right, well, thank you, David. We'll call you up after we hear public testimony and have some questions for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Doug.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. So there we go. So the subdivision tonight, so what you'll be making a recommendation on tonight is both the annexation zoning and the preliminary plat for the Terrace Falls subdivision. Excuse me, there's a little bit of history on this site. There was a pre-application meeting on June 23rd of this year. And at that meeting, it was decided that the Harvest Creek subdivision would join in with this development for sewer delivery. There are 126 sewer connections that are available to Terrace Falls Estate as a result of that discussion. In May of 2021, the Board of Appraisers and the Nampa City Council approved the hookup and annexation agreement, and the Harvest Creek subdivision was annexed and approved in 2021, and that's in the process of recording. Currently, the property is in Canyon County, and it is medium-density residential. It's surrounded by Canyon County properties on all sides. The connection is that southwest corner at Harvest Creek subdivision. Within a mile radius of this, there are residential zoning on Happy Valley Road, single family. And there's also a park over there off of right where the RS6 is on this map here. You'll see it a little bit better on the next slide. And then these are the comprehensive plan settings. It's largely medium-density residential. Low-density residential is to the east of this site. And as you can see, parks. There's a small park over there. Excuse me. In terms of the land ownership around this parcel, most of the land around this parcel is owned by the Hendrickson family. It's active agricultural land. The Cushing family owns about 9 acres to the west of this parcel. And then Roger Lynn Ellis Farms is to the south. And then there are some smaller homes adjacent to the parcel as well. Smaller parcel, excuse me. The utilities, as was mentioned by David, are located over at Happy Valley and Locust. They will have to bring those to the site. And they'll be required to construct those to and through the property. They'll be extending a 12-inch pressure irrigation main as well as a 12-inch water main. In terms of traffic, the engineering report in your staff report lists out a lot of the details about the traffic. I just wanted to mention here that there will be an impact fee for the improvement of Happy Valley and Locust Lane that will be paid by this project as well as the Harvest Creek subdivision. And they'll be contributing 6.7% towards the PM peak hour traffic at 2027, measured at 2027. And the engineering division is in process of coordinating with the Nampa Highway District Number 1 to determine the appropriate steps forward with this. The annexation and zoning regulations are the standard annexation and zoning findings that are in your staff report. I'd be glad to talk about any of those if you have questions. The preliminary plat map, as was shown by the applicant, is here. And the preliminary plat codes that are applicable to this with subdivisions have to do primarily with the fact that it is the commission's job is to determine whether this is an appropriate plat. So the plat area is 45 acres, 97 buildable lots, 8 common lots, and 13 open space lots. The total right-of-way is 16.22 acres, and the applicant will be required to dedicate 50 feet of right-of-way on Locust Lane. So the lot sizing, the density proposed is 2.12 dwelling units per acre. Given the size of the lot, the density required is two dwelling units per acre, so they're just above that threshold to make it into the medium density residential land use setting. Average lot size is 13,360 square feet. In terms of the RS5 zoning district, minimum lot size, they meet all of the requirements in terms of lot widths, averaging. There's no averaging required, but minimum lot size and lots widths. In terms of the findings, the one thing to point out here was that the landscape plan was submitted. That's in the process of being reviewed by the city forester. If there are any significant changes to the landscape plan, we'll work with that prior to the city council public hearing. There'll be a 5-foot wrought iron fence around the perimeter, largely around the perimeter of the development, with a 6-inch vinyl privacy fence that's proposed between the lots and any play areas on the property. And there's also 16, I'm sorry, that's down there, kind of hidden. There are 6 acres of common area, and which constitutes about 12.76% of the residential acreage. We did receive some correspondence on this, 2 letters from the Hendrickson family indicating concerns about the active farm operations that are going on that are surrounding this parcel, particularly in terms of the herbicides and the pesticides that are applied on a routine basis. It's a seed operation out there with some row crops and some other types of ag activity. There was also concern expressed by the family about the impact of residential develop or ag operations are going on, and that it appears to be a leapfrog type of a development. In terms of the agencies, we didn't receive any objections. There were some comments, most of them are placed in your staff report. Just of note, the fire department is 3.9 miles from the site at fire station number 2 with a response time of 9 minutes. And also Compass gave us some data that's in your staff report. Of note, the nearest police station is greater than 4 miles away, and that the schools are impacted in this area, and that it's likely that Columbia High School will go to a 5A because of the growth that's going on in this area. This area receives about 309 calls annually for that reporting district, not that specific subdivision site, but for the district in that area. In terms of staff analysis, it does meet the requirements of the medium density residential. It's surrounded by active ag land and is subject to those impacts. And staff recommends that the applicant and the city enter into a development agreement that should include the legal descriptions of plat and the conditions stated in the staff report and any other conditions added by the commission or the city council. The conditions of approval are placed in your staff report, have been available to you for your review. And there are there's 2 motions that can be combined into one motion. If you decide to recommend approval of the annexation zoning and the preliminary plat, I also have available for you, if you'd like to separate those out, the motions as well. And with that, I'd be glad to take any questions.
Doug, you said something regarding the impact fees for that and the harvest subdivision as well?
Yes.
And explain that a little bit to me about what that was going to be used for. Sound like there was a plan for those fees? Okay. Thanks, Daniel.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Garner, this subdivision does not trigger a traffic impact study due to the number of lots. The Harvest Creek subdivision to the south did trigger a traffic impact study that showed that the development necessitated intersection improvements at that per our level of service standards. And so we have been working with the Nampa Highway District and the developers in the area to determine how that will be funded. And so this subdivision will pay an extraordinary impact fee towards construction of that intersection improvement there prior to.
Which intersection is it? Happy Valley?
Happy
Locust?
Valley and Locust, the offset intersection there that with this will likely, the intent is to do a roundabout there that will take away that offset as well.
Thank you.
On that note, so the Happy Valley north of Locust Lane that goes west is now part of the city because we annexed that one little strip in. So isn't that part of Happy Valley the city, and then the south part of that the county?
So the annexation for that section there, we have the north
leg of the intersection is already within the city's.
Locust and Happy Valley North.
The
Lake?
Happy Valley north of the north of the North Locust. Yeah. The annexation for the Harvest Creek came from the south and across Happy Valley. So we have one leg, the Highway District has 3 legs. We're also in negotiations for them what that annexation will ultimately look like for operations there. Yeah.
Just make things harder, don't we?
Thank you, Daniel. Your microphone's off.
I can hear you just fine.
There you
Go.
go. He uses a variety of pesticides, and he listed them on here. But with the Right to Farm Act, is he guaranteed, as long as he follows the procedures for application of those pesticides, that he can still maintain their use and keep his operation viable?
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioner Kehoe, that is correct.
And isn't seed crop one of the larger agricultural areas for this whole United States, is right here in Kenyon County?
I don't know the specifics, but it is a large operation in this valley, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, we're gonna go to public hearing. I have only people for, nobody against or undecided. We have just a few people that wanna talk. Cleve Cushing? I'm only here if you have questions. Okay, and then, oh my goodness. Is this your? Mervell, okay, I'm like, you wrote in cursive, and I'm sorry, I can't. Did you want to speak, or just, okay. And then Jim Carson, you'd like to speak?
Yes, my name is Jim Carson. I live at 5814 East Locust Lane, and I must have signed the wrong form, because I'm against.
Okay, you're going to, all
Yes,
right.
ma'am. I just signed the one that the nice lady told me to sign. If you put up that map, I'm the property that would be to the southeast corner of this development. And so I only have a little over 3 acres there that this property would border to the west and the north. And I'm just here to register my, that I'm against it, knowing full well that it probably doesn't matter, that this will likely go through. But it just changes the way of life out there. You're gonna park, he says 97 homes, RS 12, but he's asking for RS 8.5, and he has 127 sewer taps. So that tells me they're gonna put 127 homes out there. And so a little bait and switch there, it seems like, on the part of the applicant. It just changes, you know, you're gonna park homes in my backyard. If you look at the landscape plan, there's plans for a barbecue pavilion or something in my backyard. And so, you know, there I've got, you know, from privacy to open space to 97 homes and people staring in my backyard, and just registering my, that I'm against it. So thank you for hearing me. Appreciate it.
you.
You'll hear more from my neighbor Terry Henriksen.
Okay, he signed in the wrong spot, too.
Yes, he did. I told him to.
Terry, it's your turn, come on up.
Terry Henriksen, 5705 East Greenhurst. I need to disagree with him. I will read the Right to Farm Act. Section 4, improper or negligent operation means that the agriculture operation is not undertaken in conformity with federal and state and local laws and regulations and permits, and adversely affects public health and safety. The IRFTA does not allow me to violate pesticide rules and regulations. So, I don't know what you're talking about.
But I think what he said was that I asked him if you didn't create any violations of the law.
I am in violation with this, with what the pesticides I use are
are restricted use pesticides.
Restricted use?
Restricted use pesticide, that is the highest, most dangerous pesticides we use. In carrot seed, I spray up to 12 times in a 3-month period of time with those pesticides.
But the law
As the planet warms, insects live over in the winter, and we are bombarded with them. I've been doing this for 48 years, and we can't survive without being able to spray. And if you're going to have an outside barbecue and music venue, that's the time of day I'm spraying, is evening and into the night. And you wouldn't put this next to a hog farm. And a hog farm, you can smell how far away a hog farm is. You can smell this stuff I put on. It's a fog put on at 35 gallons an acre. And we come here 15 years ago trying to get services from the city so we can move on, because we could see this coming. But the problem is that hasn't changed. I talked to the engineer just a few months ago, and it's a ship without a sail. So I don't know what we're supposed to do. In the meantime, I've got a family operation. I've got a son that's taken over the operation. I've got 7 grandsons. We want to keep farming, but I built this business up over all these years. We grow $500,000 worth of carrot seed and $500,000 of sweet corn seed, those 2 alone. And we employ a lot of people, and I don't know what we're going to do. That's our problem. If we had city services, I'd be selling out right now, but we don't. We are stuck between a rock and a hard place. And you're just going around the end of me. And I don't understand it, why we can't move city services out. And I'm sorry.
Wait a minute, Madam Chair, can I ask just a quick clarifying question? Because I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Sure.
Is that because of the pesticides that you use and the restriction on those pesticides, if a neighborhood, people were to move in next to that, you wouldn't be able to operate anymore because of the restricted
Exactly.
pesticides?
Exactly.
So through no fault of your own, you'd be put out of business due to people moving into that area? That's what I'm hearing. I just
Yeah,
want to make sure.
exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
thank you.
I would be making these people in the evening sicker than a dog.
Thank you.
This stuff lasts for days when you put it on. So the reentry on some fields, on some, it varies from 1 to 3 to 13 days reentry on the fields on
Right.
some of these pesticides.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't have anybody else signed up, but is there anybody present that would like to speak for the proposal? Against? Undecided? Okay, let's get David back up here and.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll answer a couple of them real quick, and then I'll stand for questions if that works. The impact fee for Locust and Happy Valley, we understand where that is and where that's coming from, and are glad to participate in that to the extent that goes on there. So we're aware of that. I had a note here about a roundabout, but I think it is a roundabout for that intersection. And then Mr. Carson, his opposition is, I understand, but I don't have any real objection or rebuttal to that. And I'm not quite sure what to say to Mr. Henriksen as far as, I guess it's one is this is in the comprehensive plan to be developed as residential property. And so to deny the owner the use of it for that because of what he's doing on his property doesn't seem to make sense to me. And I would think that if the products, I'm just speculating, I don't know the fact, I certainly understand his state, but that if the products are used in accordance with regulation, that they shouldn't be hazardous to neighboring properties, right? Regulation wouldn't allow the use of pesticides that would be hazardous to neighboring properties. Whether it's going to be a nuisance or not, I suppose is something of concern, could be something of concern in this area. And I don't know whether that nuisance, I don't know how it works under the Right to Farm Act, but I do know we are subject to the Right to Farm Act and that we should not complain of a perceived nuisance that appeared prior to, and the residents here wouldn't have the right to complain in that case. And I'll also go back to the point that the city has deemed this as appropriate for residential development in this area. So to stop that from the other direction, because the neighbor's use seems inappropriate. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you have otherwise.
Anybody else have any questions for David?
A question on the possibility of a potential development agreement. I think it's been recommended by staff that we enter into one. Would you be willing to lock in that density at the 97 homes, even though you have utility taps and it's an RS8, we're going for RS 8.5 zoning, but it's really in essence designed to an RS 12?
Absolutely, yes. We expect, we're planning on developing 97 lots, and this is the proposal I have in the approval of the preliminary plat, and that's specified as a condition of the development agreement we expect would limit us to 97 lots. We have no intention of developing 126 lots in this. And then we have set back the property from the southeast by that 20-foot, which has a pathway in it, you know, from this, and they're really large lots, you know, throughout the whole subdivision from that perspective as well. But the answer is yes, we're fine with having that number in there. That's what we plan to develop.
Any way to relocate the amenity to not right on the border of the neighboring property owner? Mr. Carson that spoke.
So from the plan I have, we don't have any amenities that are right on the property border there. So we do have a common space, a fairly large common open space that's north of his property across the canal. And then we do have a storm drainage lot that's right near the entrance on the southeast corner. But we don't have any amenities shown on our plan. They're immediately adjacent to Mr. Carson's property.
So where is that?
So we do have in the very center of
Picnic
the
area
property, we do have our amenities there with the barbecue area and stuff that
So
would be.
that green patch is just grass?
It's just grass in the open corner, yep, is what it's proposed as now. And, you know, as that pathway does run along his property, so there's a 20-foot wide common lot along the eastern boundary all the way up there that contains a pathway for, you know, for people to travel around the property.
Sure.
But that's immediately adjacent to his property, and then the back of the house is, you know, is 20 feet from his property line.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Any questions for staff?
Doug?
Yeah.
We seem to have a difference of opinion as to the Right to Farm Act. I thought he would be protected as long as he followed the guidelines. The guidelines say that, hey, you can put down 35,000 gallons, and he puts down 35,000 gallons, he should be okay. If he puts down 38,000 gallons, he wouldn't be okay. Can we get any kind of clarification? Is that true? I mean, I don't want to put this guy out of business because he put these homes in here.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioner Kehoe, we would have to consult with our legal, with the city attorney about that question.
Got to make the vote now, though.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of tabling until we can get a definitive answer. I mean, I don't want to create a hardship on either party.
I agree with Steve, too, with the fact that, I mean, a complaint from a neighboring subdivision about something that's going on next door is one thing, but, you know, what if the subdivision deems that let's file a lawsuit against the farmer and sue him? I mean, we can't knowingly go into something and say, this is definitely a possibility of happening, knowing full well that it could happen, so.
How long would it take you guys to get some answers?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, just so I'm clear, the question is, are they legally able to continue farming if this subdivision goes in?
Not just farming, but
Okay.
the use of his pesticides.
For the use of his
Pesticides,
pesticides?
yes.
Okay, I think we could have that pretty quickly. We have a lot on our agendas for the next few meetings. But if I assume that this would just be a
Quickie.
quick correction. So we could probably get it done for you by the first meeting in January to go to our council, our legal counsel, and get clarification there. The other alternative is you could give some direction and have us prepare that for the city council meeting, but I understand that it impacts your decision on it tonight. And so, yeah, you could definitely table it for another, or
Rodney,
continue this to another day.
Rodney, if we close the public hearing now and then tabled it until you came back to us, it would be really quick, because we would have that's what we're all kind of wondering is what,
Yeah.
we don't want to cause issues for the farmer. So if we closed public hearing now, so we wouldn't have any more testimony and just came back.
Yeah, that'd probably be the cleanest way to do it. Yeah.
I'd feel more comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, it appeared that Mr. Hendrickson had some sort of exhibit. Are we able to receive that?
You can only receive it if everybody gets to look at it, and if you give the applicant the chance to get back up and rebut. So he needs to be able to see it as well.
So if we close public hearing now, that could be entered for the next, when we re-adjourn, or no?
So you can't do that. You'd have to continue the public hearing, and then
Okay.
we take that in for public documentation,
Right.
and then you'd have to close the public hearing when we meet again, but you'd have to give the applicant the chance to rebut.
To me, it seems like, it looked like it was part of the pesticide label that maybe had rules for the application. I don't know that for fact. It's just what it looked like when he held it up. So I think that it would definitely be relevant, that we would want to have on the record.
And I think too, just for legal, they're gonna wanna know what are these pesticides and herbicides that he's using?
Well, they're
You
listed
can't
in
just
here.
throw it out there as
You wrote them down in here. They're in the application now, if you want to see what they are. And I've worked with some of these chemicals right there at the refuge, so, yeah, I mean, I'm still alive. I didn't die of anything.
But you're only 29.
Yeah, well, that's true. Look. So what's the next date there? Second Tuesday in January is what date?
11th? So the 11th of January is when we'd meet again. There's 7 public hearings? Oh, there's 6 public hearings? Okay.
You were figuring on this one, that makes 7.
So we haven't closed public hearing, and I think the applicant would like to testify at this point. Is that,
Absolutely, that's fine.
okay?
And then we can close the public hearing and then just take the vote more or less after we get the information. That would be correct?
There are several things you could do.
Well, we'll wait.
Hello, my name is Cleve Cushing. My address is 4681 West Moon Lake Drive in Meridian. Our family has owned this property for in excess of 80 years. And when Mr. Hendrickson and his family decided that they wanted to develop their land years ago, we did not object to that, even though we were not interested in developing at the time. I find it interesting that now that we want to retire and be in a spot where we can develop this, then we're being prohibited. If I understand the Right to Farm Act, as long as he's not in violation of the law, he gets to farm. And we're not opposed to that at all. We just want to be able to develop this and retire and move on. Thanks.
Did have one. Well, I mean, that's a good, he brings up a good point, which was, why can he do it now? Well, he can do it because he's someplace contiguous with city limits, right?
Barely.
It doesn't matter, as long as you're someplace.
Daniel's going to come straighten us out.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kehoe, The ability to develop is dependent on the sewer, the utility service in this instance. The Hendrickson's property is situated in an area such that it requires significant improvements to the city system back through town to the wastewater plant to be able to serve that area. The property we're looking at now is situated such that it's able to get in on the tail end line of a separate basin. And so that's why that particular situation is there.
All right, thank you. So I guess we need to figure out for sure if we can keep the Hendricksons in business by not having some frivolous lawsuit that says he's violated the policies or the rules of the EPA or whoever. We can't control that. No, we can't, but we can get a clarification from our attorney.
So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, I think the primary thing that we could get clarification from the attorney on is whether there's legal ability to continue to farm and use those pesticides if a subdivision goes there.
Right.
And I think we need, that sounds like we need to go to the attorney for that. I'm no expert in that
Right.
area.
I agree. I'd feel more comfortable if we did that.
Okay, so we close public hearing and then table it for that.
Can I ask a question before we? So this is not done have anything to do with farming or pesticides, but as far as the leapfrog, a gentleman had made a comment about leapfrog development. And what is the city's stance on developing that type of, or approving that type of development, leapfrog? Because I know, it's not convenient to do so. It's more expensive for the city, but.
And are you referring to when utilities go out to another development that's not contiguous with the city?
Yeah, I mean, this barely meets it's right there on the
Right.
tail end and barely meets that, but.
Yeah, so we recently met with Public Works about this exact issue, and we identified some serious concerns for us for types of development that go outside of the city process for annexation. So in the past, we've had subdivisions go develop in the county but get utility services. And the city council looks at that and says, is it going to benefit us financially, or is it going to cost us, is it going to cost out for us to service those properties, even though they're not annexed into the city? And if it does, then typically they've said, then let's approve that. I brought this concern to the Public Works Department just recently, and the concern is that they're outside of the annexation process. They don't go before a city public hearing where neighbors get to express their concerns. Although they do go before city council, they don't go through the annexation process. So we now require that they go through a pre-annexation process where they'd come to you, they'd go on to city council for approval, and then when they become contiguous, they are required to go through that official annexation process. The concerns, and I'm getting at your question here, the concerns are that developments like that can create a barrier for us to develop out beyond that, right? Utilities, in the case where they get utilities from the city, that's not as much of a concern. But developments out in the county create barriers for us to provide utilities to them. They also create conflict because those large lot subdivisions that are county subdivisions now see the city development coming, and they're smaller lot typically, and so then they're concerned about it because it's not compatible. Well, it's in our impact area, right? We're planning to grow into that area. And so the concern is that subdivisions like that, those large lot subdivisions, they're gonna create problems for us in the long run in this room, right? Because those people are not going to feel like they're compatible with their development that's larger lot. So there's a couple of issues there, but we've really tried to address most of the issues by going through the process, regardless of whether they're contiguous or not.
And we're seeing some of those issues on the other side of Greenhurst, on the other end, west side, with, we'll probably see one of those tonight. Where you have those larger subdivisions with the smaller, and this is just one of those areas, we all knew the growth was coming here. This is contiguous because of that corner,
That's correct.
no matter how soft the touch is, it's still contiguous.
That's correct. Legally, that's legal to annex because of that.
We need a motion to close public hearing and one to table.
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
I guess just before we do that, Mike, I wanted to make a couple of comments. I think there's a couple, the property owner, the applicant has a right to develop his parcel of land, right? The farmer around him has the right to continue to farm his property as he's done for the last 100 years. I think we can make a recommendation to city council, and in a quick matter of time before it even gets to council's review and the hearing, I think we can work out the legal issue. If we can't, and our legal counsel comes back and says, look, this is going to create huge problems, then council can figure out what they want to do. I'm not saying we need to recommend approval to city council, but given the amount of stuff that's on, or other applications that are on the agendas now and going forward, I don't know if it'd be really fair to say, let's wait a month or 2 months for a legal opinion when our job is to determine the legal findings and the legal facts, pursuant to land entitlement, not the Farming Act. It's an issue, it's a big issue, and we have the ability to vet that out, but I don't think we need to delay it for 45 days to get there. So that's just my opinion. We can go either way on the recommendation, but I don't think we should table or continue.
Okay. Well, let's close public hearing first, and then we can discuss.
Okay. I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed.
What would be best for staff, Rodney?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What would be best for the staff and your unit?
Well, we're here at the will of
I know,
the
but
commission.
Give me an honest answer.
I do like Ron's idea that we,
So I will just say that they're going to face the same questions you're facing, right? They're going to have to address this. So we will need to go to the council or to our legal counsel regardless to get an answer. They're going to want to know the same things that you're wanting. So the process, I think Commissioner Van Acker addressed the process correctly. The process is you have to make a decision based on the criteria in the code. But there's a lot of leeway in annexation. Is it the right time? Is it the right location? There's a lot of those things that you can factor in. But you're here to determine, is it the right kind of land use there? So you could go either way here. I think you could go to council. You could decide yourself that you want that answer before you want to recommend it on to city council. I don't know that we should. I don't know that we should make a decision if you're uncomfortable. I don't know that we should make a decision because of the amount of projects on the agenda. Right? But you know, if you're feeling okay about going to council, I think that's very doable. We can get that information for city council to make the decision.
No, and I think in all fairness to the public too, because we're here to serve the public, city of Nampa, but I think we ought to seek council, not council, not the city council, but our attorneys. I think we should seek input from the attorney, because you're right, city council is gonna ask for the same thing. And then, you know, even if it is 45 days, I think that's doing our due diligence too, as far as a commission, and making sure that we have everything.
I agree with,
That we have everything, and then move forward from there. Might be a little inconvenient to one party or the other party, but nonetheless, I think it's good that we.
It'll get done right.
And I think the council will want our recommendation, right? And if we're not gonna, we can't send it on to them really without a recommendation, can we? Isn't that what we're here to do, is to hear it and then make a recommendation?
but after we come back on whatever the date was, January 11th or 12th, whatever you said, it would go to them the next week, right? No?
No, it would not. We still have to advertise for it, so it's a significant delay for a developer. And I'm trying to be very careful about trying to guide you. I'm not, I can't direct you one way or another.
I get that. I can hear it.
Yeah. But I will say that, that we will, if it were to go on to city council, we would find that information, we would get that information before it went on to city council.
Would city council say, well, they approved it already, so we'll just go ahead along with their, I don't think they would do that.
Does city council do that? That's like,
So if somebody makes a motion to recommend approval with the clarification that, you know, whatever the city attorney's information is up to allow the farmer to keep doing what he's doing. And then if that comes back where it would prohibit him from doing that, then our recommendation would be against. Is there a way to kind of?
I think we need to be a little careful with that too.
That's why we have to wait.
Yeah.
We're stepping into some stuff that we don't completely understand.
Yeah.
When's the next earliest date this will be on the agenda if we table it?
January 11th.
I'm gonna make a motion then, move this along, and we'll see where it goes. But I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, that we table this agenda item to January 11th and ask staff to reach out to the city attorney and find out specifically if and I apologize, I forgot your name, but if the farmer in question can continue to farm with the current pesticides that he uses if development occurs next to that land, according to the Farm Act.
Right to Farm Act.
Right to Farm Act.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table public hearing item number 1 until January 11th, when we can have an answer from the city attorney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
aye.
Is that 2 opposed? Matt and Brett.
Ron and Brett.
Ron,
Oh, Ron and
I'm
Brett,
Ron.
sorry.
it's okay.
Matt put his hand up, so
You were just waving.
he just pointed at Brett. Okay, so that's tabled until the 11th, and then we won't open public hearing up, but we'll hear the attorney's results, and then we'll decide.
Right.
Quick and easy.
So you guys can come and listen, and then we'll do our recommendation for or against to city council, and then you get a chance to testify there all over again. Thank you for your patience. This is a complex one, guys. Okay, public hearing number 2. We have annexation and zoning to RA on 11255 Greenhurst Road. Do we have the applicant?
One way or the opposite.
I'm David Martin. I'm at 11255 West Greenhurst in Nampa. 20-plus years ago, my wife and I developed this large lot subdivision with the idea that we would spend our days there. Circumstances have changed. We both have cancer. Mine's not responding to treatment so well. So she's going to need to, we have a need to downsize. So we approached a realtor who had a ready buyer, but that buyer's intention was to break the 4 acres up into multiple smaller lots. Since that was not our intention in the beginning, we didn't think that was a great idea. So we cast about for what to do about it and came up with the idea of, well, why don't we annex into the city, split into two-acre lots, which are basically the same size as everybody else's lot, and in that way make it much more difficult for anybody in the future to split up into tiny, tiny lots, city-type lots. And so here we are.
Okay. All right, we'll hear from staff. We might have some questions for you when we get done with public testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on the Martin property, it's currently under the jurisdiction of Canyon County, and it is outside of Nampa City impact area. The properties in question are adjacent to each other, and they're both owned by the applicant. Excuse me. In the surrounding zoning on the property, it's unincorporated Canyon County. Surrounding it to the southeast and west and north is the Royal Ridge subdivision. It's an RS 8.5. Most of the land uses, all of the land uses in the area are large lot or single-family residential. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. It's inevitable when I start presenting here. Thank you. The utilities are available to the site. They're in Greenhurst Road. There's an existing 12-inch main. There's no pressure irrigation in the area, and it will need to maintain its current irrigation service. There's an 8-inch main at Greenhurst Road and West Royal Ridge. It's about 100 feet from the property and could be extended if need be. There is legal access to Greenhurst Road, which is a collector at 35 miles an hour. And the full city public right-of-way already exists along the south side of Greenhurst Road. In terms of the regulation for annexation, again, these are stated in your staff report. It's standard findings. And the same applies to the rezone. And then in terms of the RA district zone that the applicant wishes to zone these into, it's more of it's a semi-rural type of zoning. It has certain limited agricultural pursuits that are available per code on this property. And it also has a larger lot minimum of 30,000 square feet and a maximum net density of 1.45 units per acre. The setbacks are also wider, and the front yard setback is at least 35 feet. The record of survey that was sent to us by the applicant shows two parcels, one at 2.344 acres with the existing house on it, and the proposed parcel split is 1.8 acres that would front Greenhurst Road. And this arrow indicates the direction at which this view is taken. This is off of a Google Map picture from 2019. The fenced property is the property that the applicant is looking to construct a second structure on. We did receive correspondence from public agencies. There were really no objections. The standard language from the building department. We received 3 emails. The Jordan and Janelle Nelson, who are opposed to the impact on the rural feel of the area and the views to the lake, and also the concerns about the agreement, the HOA agreement that indicates that they would not be splitting these properties. Al and Lenora Knapp had the same concerns as the Nelsons. And then we received an email from Kenneth and Joyce Jorgensen, They were opposed due to concerns about preserving the character of the area and concerns about future city development as a result of this annexation. And they also cited a letter by Susan and Doug Ray citing concerns about the HOA agreement as well. The property is in Canyon County. The stated purpose by the applicant is to construct a new home on a vacant lot, and this is a permitted land use within the RA zoning district. The concerns that the property owners in the Coyote Cove HOA have with the agreement will have to be resolved between the HOA and the applicant. It's a civil matter and can't be resolved by the city. In terms of the conditions of approval, they're stated in your staff report. And the recommendation is also in your staff report. And again, I'd be glad to take any questions. Thank you.
Doug, the applicant stated that, I think he said he owned that he owns the property on both Greenhurst and on Meredith.
Meredith Court, yes.
Does he live in one and his family lives in the other, or does he just rent out the other one, or what's the legal ownership of that second property?
Yeah, so, Madam Chair and Commissioner Kehoe, so the property that the applicant lives in is, let's see if we can get my cursor to work here, is right here. This is the applicant's home. And then the property currently, I believe it's this back lot right here. And he's had a lot line adjustment to that in the plat that I showed, and it takes that and divides this way, down up to north-south. So it divides this existing home from this future parcel right here.
So will an additional home be built?
The applicant has stated that they would like to build well, I believe it was to build a second home on that property.
And the one on Greenhurst?
That's correct.
Else want to do in the past.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, let's open public hearing. All right, public hearing number 2. Okay, we've got the Martins as 4, so we got you down there. Against, we have Ann Binns, and you'd like to speak.
My name's Ann Binns. My husband and I live at 11968 Meredith Court, which is the lot line split part of that. And we sent in a letter. And this is a statement I'd like to read from another neighbor, Mark and Talisha Taylor, okay? They live at 11820 Meredith Court, and it's regarding the Martin annexation. We would like to go on record as being opposed to any annexation, rezoning, or subdividing of the Martin property, 11255 Greenhurst Road, including, and the parcel numbers, both parcel numbers. The definition of covenant by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary is a formal and serious agreement or promise. In 2005, when we built our home at 11820 Meredith Court, our lot was not part of the original Coyote Cove subdivision. Our lot is attached to the Coyote Cove subdivision. We were asked by the subdivision president, Dr. David Martin, and the developer, Mr. Mills, if we would be willing to adopt the covenants/promises that they had developed when they founded the Coyote Cove subdivision. The purpose was to honor the investment of any of my new neighbors to keep the subdivision intact. We read through the covenants and promises and were happy to agree to uphold the wishes of the subdivision to keep intact all of our investments. During the past 16 years that we have lived in the subdivision, Coyote Cove subdivision meetings have been held on an annual basis to go through the covenants and promises of our subdivision. Every year a vote is taken and recorded by all in attendance to readopt these covenants and promises. Dr. David Martin attended almost every meeting up until 2020 and chaired most of those meetings. Every year, David Martin reminded us of the importance of continuing to have the meetings and have an official vote to keep the covenants and promises intact and up to date. In his words, it's the only way our covenants and promises will be honored. The Coyote Cove subdivision CCNRs indicate that after a property was purchased, it could not be subdivided. I'm asking you to honor the wishes of our community by upholding the CCNR's promises that Dr. David Martin created and that our community has renewed faithfully every year. Thank you for hearing the concerns of your community. Mark Taylor. Thank you.
Is that it? Okay, thank you. And then we have Jim on here as well as against, and get you on the record. Okay, Susan Ray. And we had Doug, we'll have you on the record as against as well. Or did you want to speak too? I'm just going to read a letter. Okay.
Hello. My name is Susan Ray. My husband Doug and I live at 11980 Meredith Court, Lot 15 in the Coyote Cove Subdivision Number 2. We are opposed to the annexation and any re-subdivision of the Martins property. We purchased our property in 2003. We've lived there since 2004. We've adhered to the Coyote Cove CCNRs because we believe them to be fair and in the best interest of the subdivision. I have served as the president of the Coyote Cove Homeowners Association, and I'm now the secretary of the Water Users and the Homeowners Association. And as a board, we have always deferred to Canyon County ordinances if there was ever an issue. We're a little worried if the city comes into a little horseshoe in the middle of our large lot Canyon County subdivision. The proposed changes would bring the city of Nampa right up to our fence line. We have cows. They're for our personal consumption. They have flies. Again, it's the issue, what's the city going to do about that? And we realize the Martins, they have horses. What we're worried about is when they decide to sell and move on. The Martins' recent request is in total opposition to what they've done in their past actions. We are not in the city of Nampa's area of impact. You didn't want us, we didn't want you. It was a happy relationship. Dave Martin has communicated to several of the adjacent property owners that splitting his 4-acre property into 2-acre properties is far better than being sold to a developer and multiple lots being developed. Again, we agree. But what we're worried about is when Dave and Ann Martin are not owners of this property and we have that annexation. The reason they need to be annexed is in the CCNRs. You can only do that. You can only re-subdivide your lot if you are annexed, and it is a note on the plat. And there is no finite number of splits on that plat note. So they might keep it at 2 acres, and then when they decide to move on, there's no stopping what could happen. We realize this would be a process, but it is a possibility, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to maintain the status quo put forth in the CCNRs and avoid any precedent that would be set by the Martins' request to be annexed and then re-subdividing their property. There's a new subdivision on the corner of Greenhurst and Middleton that would allow all the lots on Middleton to be contiguous to the city of Nampa. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Doug?
So I'm just here to read a letter from another one of our neighbors that wasn't able to submit the letter in time for you guys, so it's a quick little 3-paragraph thing, and I'll do that, and then I'll just step away. It's just their letter.
Okay.
It's from Alan Robin Sanchez on 2525 South Middleton Road. Al wrote the letter. He said, Robin and I oppose the proposed annexation requested by Mr. Martin and Ann Martin. We would like to go on record as being opposed to any annexation, rezoning, or subdividing of the Martin property at 11255 Greenhurst Road, including parcel numbers, as you guys know. The Coyote Cove subdivision CCNR covenants clearly state that with the purchase of property, it is not to be subdivided. The plat states that if the property were annexed by the city, splits could be a possibility. The Martins are asking the city of Nampa to annex their property only in order to subdivide. In the past, other property owners have tried to rezone their property in order to subdivide. The Martins, along with other Coyote Cove residents, have strongly opposed the rezoning in order to keep our Coyote Cove subdivision intact. Annexation and subdividing of any Coyote Cove property violated the agreement to the covenants and sets a precedence for further annexation within subdivision that could completely change the established characteristics of our Coyote Cove subdivision. Respectfully, Al and Robin Sanchez.
Thank you. Okay, then we have somebody who doesn't want to speak. Joe Elliston? Okay, you didn't change your mind, you're good. Okay, we've got you down as opposed. Janelle Nelson? Then we have Jody, you don't want to speak? Okay, we got you as opposed too.
Okay, I'm Janelle Nelson at 11293 Greenhurst Road. So I'm not in the Coyote Cove subdivision, but I'm right next door on Greenhurst, not in a subdivision. My letter of opposition is also on file because of what this annexation could potentially do to the other rural lots in the Coyote Cove subdivision and future splits. But I'm extremely concerned and fearful of what kind of precedents this annexation could create. I'd like someone to address why these 4 acres need to be annexed in order for him to get the 2 lots he needs. Why didn't we go to the county? I tried to find out from the county. I tried to find out from here if he had applied to the county. I just don't know why it didn't stay county and get his split, but that would still get him what he wants, but it's just going to set precedents for the Coyote Cove deal too. I'm trying to figure out why you would even consider passing the impact zone recommendations from our past hearings and proceeding straight to annexation. I mean, we have fought the impact zone thing, hearing after hearing, year after year. And I have Dr. Martin's signature even here. He signed, was against that. I mean, he's acknowledged that. But we've repeatedly addressed at these hearings the impact zone boundaries with both you and with the county, and you have unanimously and intentionally removed Coyote Cove and all of the homes on West Greenhurst out of the impact area lines. We convinced you, we prepared, and we fought hard to continue to abate those lines even moving, knowing that it is the first step towards potential annexation. And they have agreed with us over the years. So you did remove us from the impact area. You removed our subdivision from the proposed area of impact, and all of the homeowners were in unanimous agreement about that. We're up against the wildlife refuge and almost to the lake with our boundaries. We're a country filled with animals, and most of the lots are 2 to 5 acres. I feel like this consideration of this application for annexation is extremely premature. Its approval would negate all of the years of our coordinated work from all of the 17 lots and the people in Greenhurst that we've met with you and, to keep the rural country subdivision safe from any more development. There are no more lots to develop. Nobody wants it to, ever be annexed into the city. I'm sure Dr. Martin has no immediate plans to subdivide more than the 2 acres, but what would stop the future build jobs? And I know we've all addressed that. I feel like it's opening a door that none of us want to walk toward, despite the growth that Nampa is experiencing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have Howard Henning that does not wish to speak, but is on the record as no. And Susan Smith as well, on the record as no. Is there anybody else present that would like to speak for the proposal, against the proposal, or is undecided? Okay. Mr. Martin, you want to come up and address some questions?
Sure, thank you very much. So when we did this development 25 years ago, we did intend for it not to be subdivided. Under the advice of Alan Mills, who we were working with at the time, he said that things sometimes change. So we put in those little addendums that if in the future we were annexed, that subdivisions could be obtained. And it is true, I've opposed two other properties that wanted to subdivide. One was in the middle of the subdivision, and I can just say it's different location, different times, different circumstances. Things change. I guess my biggest disappointment is that I haven't been able to explain well enough, I guess, to my neighbors that what I'm trying to do is actually protect my vision for the subdivision from the past, rather than open a door for something worse to happen. Quite the opposite. Any of the properties on Greenhurst or now Middleton Road are contiguous with the city, and so any of those people could do the same thing I'm doing. And in terms of affecting the rural nature, I don't understand how the same size lot as people already have somehow changes the rural nature. It doesn't make sense to me. Can't remember if there's any other, in terms of views, nobody's view is going to be affected by this. That was one of the things when I did the subdivision, was try to protect views. And I think most of the people won't even be able to see another house right next to us. I think that's probably all. I would say that when we started this subdivision 20 plus years ago, the neighbors at the time, some of whom are here again tonight, made the same arguments and then turned around and thanked me for doing what I did 25 years ago. So I expect, depending on what you guys decide, that the same thing would happen again. But
I do have a question for you, Mr. Martin. There was a question about county. Did you go to the county first to subdivide this lot?
No. See,
and why was that?
Because the plat says, it's on the plat, that you can't subdivide unless you're annexed into the city.
So the county would have nothing, you wouldn't be able to do anything at the county level?
Right, yeah.
Mr. Martin, you did say that you were doing this to benefit your neighbors. I don't understand how it benefits. Could you explain it to me and to your neighbors?
Well, because if I sell the entire parcel to
So
somebody.
if you don't sell the entire parcel, it'll benefit, but not if you subdivide your acreage.
I'm not sure what you said there, but.
You're saying that.
So we've already purchased another house. We're gonna move.
Then why don't you just move? Why don't you sell your property you have now and move to the new house?
So that's what I started with at the beginning. The first person that we talked to wanted to subdivide into city lots. Wanted to annex and subdivide into city lots. And I'm trying to prevent that.
You own more than just those two properties? The one on 111255 and the one at,
Well, it's just one, it's just a little piece of the lot behind us that we own. So it's really just one 4+ acre property. And I want to split it into two to prevent people from doing it into tiny ones. And the only way to do that is to come before you and annex in the city to do that.
Any other questions for Mr. Martin? Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for staff?
Yeah, just a quick one, and I should know this answer, but a development agreement, is that typical with a annexation like this?
Madam Chair and Councilman, or Commissioner Kirkman, not typically. An annexation like this doesn't typically, unless there's some extenuating circumstances that require a development agreement. Also, just as a point of clarification, there are two lots adjacent to each other, owned by the same owner. They can do a lot line adjustment through the county without having to go through a public hearing process to divide these two lots into two lots without having to be annexed into the city in order to be able to do that. It was the applicant's contention that the plat doesn't allow them to do that. And so he desires to annex into the city to be able to make that adjustment. That's our understanding.
And I think my understanding is also, he is also proposing the development agreement to keep it at 2 lots. Is that why that's there, that development agreement? I mean, why would, maybe I can't ask that.
Yeah, we'd have to find out from the applicant what it is that they'd be interested in doing.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I think that maybe we're talking about that language in the motion because we put development agreements on every annexation and rezone as a potential. If there are specific things that you want to attach to that project, then you can do that through a development agreement and it would stay with the property forever and ever. Okay. But that's just if you need it. I don't know. I defer to Doug to see if there was anything specific about a development agreement from the applicant, but I would guess it's just from staff.
That makes sense.
But to clarify, Doug, didn't you just say that he doesn't really need to do this? He could just go to the county and they could adjust the lot line?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner Kehoe, the applicant, he would have to work with the county on making that. He can go, and a person can go if they own 2 contiguous parcels, as long as they're meeting the minimum lot size and the codes that are required, they can adjust those lot lines without having to do a subdivision, without having to do a public hearing. It's just an administrative lot split, or a lot line adjustment, excuse me. So a new subdivision isn't being created in this action. But the applicant has stated again that the plat for that Coyote Cove subdivision, as it was written, doesn't allow that to occur per the applicant. So
they have to get annexed.
Right.
yes.
So then if they do get annexed, and we do have a development agreement that says that only a single-family dwelling can be built on that property,
That's it.
then it couldn't be changed no matter what. And it really doesn't change anything for the subdivision around as far as what legally could happen just because they border Middleton and Greenhurst currently with where the city's at.
So a development agreement could place a limitation on that, as was suggested. There's always the option if somebody buys the property that they could try to modify that development agreement. That's an option they have that would require a public hearing.
And the public would come back to us at that time and say the
That's
same
correct.
thing they're saying now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing?
Can I ask a quick question of Mr. Martin?
We didn't, they made the.
We haven't voted. If you don't mind, sir, I'd hate to have you get up again, but, so the note on the plat says you can't subdivide the property. But as we've been discussing, you own the lot that your home is on and then the lot to the south?
Correct.
So are you saying the county will not allow you to do a lot line adjustment to move that lot line in the middle, reconfigure it to create that separate lot?
I could do that, but it doesn't allow you to split a lot off and build another house. So it's a lot line adjustment that doesn't do anything. There's no building permit for that.
Okay.
For the
Got
lot
it.
behind us.
I understand now.
Yeah.
Because we've developed stuff in the past and just, rather than subdivide, we try to buy parcels with a lot of lot lines. Or sneak them in somehow, but anyway.
You've already had your time to testify, I'm sorry. Now, make your motion.
Sure, we'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second it again.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. I think they're bringing all the hard ones at us tonight.
Does seem that way.
Madam Chair, I got some real bad reservations with moving forward on allowing this, because then it opens the door. This isn't in our future land use map, it's not in our city, our area of impact. They fought to keep it out, they want to keep it out. We have no desire as a city right now to have it as part of us. I think opening the door and allowing it to be annexed is just opening the door for all those people over there, and it's gonna be a battle from here on out if we were to allow that to happen. I'm opposed to it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I think that if we split it into two and put that development agreement in there, it would be fine. So I'm for it.
Then you open up the annexation to everybody around it, and that,
And they have a right to come before us and
Yeah,
we
but if
decide
you've done
each
one,
on a
then-
case by case.
Well, then what legal grounds you can add to deny one and approve another? Or approve one and deny another?
But it's all based on.
Can we put it in the DA that nobody else can annex? I feel bad.
if it was at least in our area of impact and future land use map, I might be a little more open to it, but being they fought hard to stay out, the city has not wanted to take it on. I think it should stay where it's at and not be annexed into the city at this time.
Is that a motion or?
I feel almost opposite in the fact that I totally understand what the Martins are trying to do and protect. Because then we could make a development agreement, and then that, at least this portion would never come before us again for change, potentially.
But then everybody else could
Unless it
do the
was
same
bought-
thing, and then they would say, well, you did it for the Martins, why won't you do it from us?
And anybody along Greenhurst can come at any time and make the same, doesn't matter if this particular parcel is annexed or not. Anybody in those other lots down Greenhurst can come at any time and request to be annexed. So I agree with Commissioner Miller is, I do think that what he's trying to do here is going to keep the rural nature of that area. It's only gonna add one more house. And you're not even gonna notice it, because all those lots are so huge anyways, and some are smaller than this lot. I wish the county could do something, is what I'm thinking, but I think this is the best way forward, and it does protect that from being broken up into smaller lots, and at any time, anyone along Greenhurst, because it's contiguous with the city limits, and then come and request annexation.
And I don't think it's opening a can of worms, because like you said, it doesn't really make any difference. Anybody already that's along there, Greenhurst or Middleton Road, could come in at any time.
In a development agreement, we could request, well, it would be RA, because that's what the applicant is requesting, to RA. And, I would just hope that any further commission would keep that RA feel. So even if another property is annexed, it's annexed RA. Because I think this is a special part of town that needs to remain this way, but understanding what the applicant wants to do also, I think that's a way we can serve both.
But if we deny this one, it makes it easier to continue to deny those on the south side of Greenhurst. If we allow this one, then we pretty much are opening the door to have to allow it for everyone along Greenhurst and down Midland.
With reservation though, I mean, we can always say, you know, look, this was split and those lots are 2 acres. You know, the county has requirements based on that. Why couldn't we just say the same thing? This subdivision is a rural field. We've done it before. 2 acre lot is a decent sized lot. It's not like it's a third of an acre. And it's not like they're asking for, let's throw some 6,000 square foot lots in there either. So, I mean, I think it's pretty simple because of what everyone here has said tonight, to be able to deny somebody else, even if it is a next door neighbor who comes and says, well, I bought this property and I have the right to put 6,000 square foot lots in there. Well, this guy just did it 2 years ago and he did 2 acre lots. And that's what everybody else around still has, at least. I don't know. Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and make the motion to recommend approval, the annexation and zoning to RA, and and the development agreement that only 1 residential lot be placed on that new 2 acre parcel at 11255 Greenhurst Road and 11968 Meredith Court for David and Ann Martin.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the annexation and zoning. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
2? You 2? Okay. All right, we'll go to city council now, or are we yeah, so that will go to city council. You guys can have a chance to testify again in front of city council, and it's up to them where it goes. Thank you for your time.
On 3 yet?
This should go.
Don't say things like that. Okay. Public hearing number 3, the annexation and zoning of 345 West Dooley Lane. Do we have the applicant?
I think the next meeting should all be CUPs. Oh, that's right.
There we go. Do we not have an applicant here for the Dooley Lane? We have nobody here to present.
All right, moving on.
Should we just
Yeah.
skip it, or do we just?
Madam Chair, it's pretty simple. It's a utility agreement.
Oh, okay, we do those. Okay,
So-
all right, Rodney, tell us all about it.
Okay.
It's the simple ones.
Okay, Madam Chair and Commission, this is a request for an annexation and zoning to RS 12 zoning district and potential development agreement at 345 West Dooley Lane. Typically, we wouldn't have a development agreement unless there's specific conditions you want to place on this forever. And it is in order to connect to an existing single-family home to city water utilities. And you can see that here, it's this triangular piece right on the south side of Dooley Lane, and this is Highway 45 or 12th Avenue Road. The comprehensive plan designates this area as low-density residential. To the north is an enclave parcel. Oh, let me go a little closer. To the north is an enclave parcel, R1 designation in the county. To the southwest is the RS6 Wycliffe Estates subdivision, and to the east is the enclave parcel R1 Kenyon County zoning for Covert subdivision. Immediately surrounding, it's just single-family residential. Again, services are, there are water utilities available, and irrigation, but the sewer is not immediately available to the site. These are the applicable regulations for annexation, and you would have to find that those are are true for this one to be annexed. Applicable regulations for zoning designation, should you choose to zone it, what they've requested as RS12. And then I'm happy to go through the RS12 zone and what permitted uses are there, but that's also in your packet. Here is the lot sizes, and this is, again, is still under the old code. And so we still have those lot sizes as 12,000 square feet. And it would be compliant with that. Again, the development agreement, it's what you want to put in it. It's just an agreement. Just wanted to highlight a couple, or maybe just one, maybe two. Two comments that we received from agencies. Engineering said that a right-of-way dedication will be needed for 40 feet from section line, and then all the rest of this is in your packet. The Nampa School District, number 131. I've got, my screen doesn't let me see behind this, so I'm gonna have to turn around. Encourage future development of sidewalks to improve walkability and safety for walking to school and bus stops in the area. So, there we go. It complies with the comprehensive plan. Low-density residential. It matches the surrounding uses of single-family, a little bit larger lots. And I'm going to skip over the specifics of the comprehensive plan. Here are the conditions that were requested by agency partners. And here's a potential motion for your consideration.
And the applicant's aware of all the conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Rodney? Okay, public hearing is now open. There's nobody signed up on this one. Is there anybody present that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this annexation?
Make a motion to close public hearing. I'll go ahead and second.
Stereo.
It's coming from both sides. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Seems pretty straightforward.
Madam Chair, make the motion to recommend approval of the annexation of zoning RS12 zoning district at 345 West Dooley Lane in order to connect existing single-family home to city water utilities located at southeast section 1/4, so on and so forth, at Canyon County for Gene Innes. All conditions listed in the staff report.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
See, we can go fast.
Okay, public hearing number 4, conditional use permit for a commercial kennel license. Do we have the applicant here? Thank you. Just bring me blank pieces of paper.
That's good.
Give us your name and address and,
Travis Jackman. I reside at 301 East Carroll Street, Nampa.
okay? Tell us what you want to do.
Well, I got a fully fenced-in backyard, but I have 4 dogs. And I didn't know at the time that I had to have a kennel license. We have a fence that borders between the cemetery there up at 6th Avenue in Northside.
Okay.
And the way I found out was I stepped outside, I was playing with my daughter or something, I don't really remember, but I seen the animal control on the other side over at the cemetery. But they're looking at our dogs, so I walk over and I find out what's going on. Apparently, somebody at the cemetery made a complaint about our dogs barking.
Wait.
And
Somebody at the cemetery made a complaint?
yeah, people, yes.
It was a very quiet complaint.
Yes. I know, it's weird. But I guess people walk their dog, there's this little walking area right here, and they walk their dogs. Well, they don't put their dogs on a leash, so of course their dogs run up and jump on the fence, so of course our dogs are gonna bark. But basically, animal control said that we need to come in and apply for a kennel license, so that's what I went ahead and did.
And did they also tell you that when the dogs come around barking, you can call animal control and they can come get those loose dogs?
No, they didn't tell me that.
Well, you can do that too. That will solve your problem just as quick as you
But
get
it
a
wouldn't
kennel
solve,
license.
true, but it wouldn't solve the problem that I
Oh.
guess if you have 4 animals, you have to have a kennel license. I didn't know that.
And you're not planning on breeding these animals, or
Absolutely not.
they're spayed, neutered, and your pets? Okay.
Yes.
What breeds are the 4?
Pit bulls.
That's why.
Yeah, they're my babies, so.
Okay,
They can be good babies.
thanks.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we get to hear from Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'll make this rather quick. It's pretty simple. This is a conditional use permit for a non-commercial kennel license. It was originally advertised as a commercial kennel license, but this is non-commercial, up to 4 dogs. It is zoned ILRS, surrounded by single-family residences in the cemetery to the east. Definition of a non-commercial kennel license: any lot, building, enclosure, or portion thereof in which more than 2 dogs or cats of at least 6 months of age are kept, but excluding a single documented service animal. A kennel license is required, hence why we are here tonight. Conclusions of law are in the staff report. Or only correspondence is for Title IV, which doesn't really apply in this case. Land uses, as I stated, surrounded by single-family homes. The lot is set back behind the other homes, but it's adjacent to the cemetery. The applicant stated that they will have up to 4 dogs at any one time, and they're mostly indoor dogs. Code enforcement had originally submitted a comment that there were outstanding issues with the property. Those issues were not related to the dogs and have since been addressed. Generally, however, an increase of dogs can correlate to an increase of chances in creating a nuisance. The potential conditions of approval are in the staff report, as well as any that you would like to add. And there is a potential motion for you, and I will stand for any questions.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Do we know if there's been any other complaints about these dogs filed by neighbors, animal control, or the police, or?
I didn't receive any comments, and generally, the police don't really issue comments for it. But
So
if,
we don't know then.
But animal control would go out and,
Yeah, they'd try and settle the issue, so it would be reported.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, it would be from the police department, because animal control is under the police department, but they didn't submit any comments for it.
We can assume then there wouldn't.
no news is good news, I guess. Okay. All right, we'll open public testimony. I don't have anybody signed up. Is there anybody who would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this kennel license?
Madam Chair, make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make the motion to approve the conditional use permit for a non-commercial kennel license for up to 4 dogs in an ILRS Light Industrial Single Family Residential Zone District at 301 East Carroll Street for, what was his name? Travis Jackman, with all conditions recommended by staff and conclusions of law.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the CUP. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I have to read my little CUP thing. I haven't got to do it for a while. Okay, this CUP will become effective 15 calendar days from the date of this is the CUP, yeah, of this hearing, unless an appeal has been filed with the Planning and Zoning Department with the appropriate fee. No action should be taken on the CUP until the appeal period has concluded. The applicant must confirm with Planning and Zoning staff there have been no appeals. Your dog's already at your house. We're not going to tell you to take your dog somewhere else, but, there's 15 days from today for somebody to file a legal appeal, and then you'd have to go to city council and fight for their dogs there. But, all right, thank you.
Let your dogs loose in city council, see what happens.
Oh, no. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break. let's get ready to rumble, whatever. Okay, Rodney, we're going to start if you will take your seat.
Hurry up, Rodney.
There's always one. Okay, we have public hearing item number 5, community business planned unit development to IL. Do we have the applicant?
All right, good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Jeff Bauer. My address is 601 West Bannock in Boise, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, LDK Ventures. We have our project engineer with us tonight from TO Engineers, and we also have a construction manager from LDK Ventures, Srini Nunkala, and they're available for any questions should you have some that are really in the weeds and I can't answer. So this is LDK Ventures' second project in the city of Nampa. You might remember me from earlier this summer when we were talking about an industrial project on Madison Avenue. So this is our second project, and just to give you a quick reminder, LDK Ventures is based out of Sacramento, California. They have extensive experience in industrial real estate development as well as mixed-use development, but we're sticking with industrial in this case. Couple of their projects up on the screen. Of course, this is the project that you and the city council approved on Madison Avenue earlier this year, and then this is the Bay Area Logistics Center in Richmond, California. It looks very similar to what we're proposing tonight, so I wanted to give you an example. We have one application before you tonight, and that is for a rezone of this property. I've outlined the property in yellow on the aerial photo on the left. The rezone in this case will allow us to go from commercial zoning to light industrial zoning, and this will be to bring spec industrial project to the city, which, as you know, is in very high demand and needed to support Nampa's growing light industrial, manufacturing, and employment base. So this property is 42 acres in size. We are in the southwest corner of the I-84 Northside interchange. Property's already in the city, annexed in 1976, and it is currently vacant, but you can see there's kind of some earth moving and trucks going on there. It's been used by Amalgamated Sugar as a beet waste depository for I don't know how long, but for quite some time. Comprehensive plan map is on the right there. The property is designated commercial, but you can see we're basically entirely surrounded on the south, north, and west by industrial designated property. Switching to the zoning map from the comp plan map. So here we're looking at the zoning. We are zoned BCP PUD currently. To the south is industrial zone property. To the west is heavy industrial. And then to the north is more industrial property, the Amalgamated Sugar project. We, again, asking for light industrial. Light industrial is appropriate for this site because we are surrounded by industrial designated property under your comp plan. We're allowed to take that designation from all the properties surrounding us and stretch it over to our property. So comp plan does allow the zone we're asking for in this case. In addition to the comp plan, one of the criteria we're supposed to analyze tonight is whether the zoning is compatible with our surroundings. We also offer this map in support of that. We will be light industrial, so same as what's to the south, same as what's to the north, and sort of a less heavy, a less intensive use than the heavy industrial to the west. So now getting into the project a little bit more, LDK does plan to develop the site as what they're calling the Northside Logistics Center. This will be turnkey spec industrial. The uses we anticipate will be light industrial, warehousing, and distribution. This is our concept plan. As you can see, we have 3 phases. Phase 1 being the phase furthest to the north along the interstate there. We are currently designing this phase. We hope to start construction in the summer of 2022. I find this fascinating. This has been delayed because of the beet tailings. There's about 800,000 cubic square feet of beet tailings there that have to be trucked off site so we can get the site prepped for development. So we're currently in the process of doing that. And that's one of the reasons that we aren't going faster.
Do you have to pay for that, or do the beat people pay for that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kehoe, we are.
Don't know any good attorneys?
Part of the deal. Part of the deal. In total, when all three phases are done, we expect the project to generate around 600,000 square feet of industrial space. We have proposed a development agreement with this rezone, and one of the reasons we've done that is to make this site plan specifically a condition of approval. So if the rezone is approved tonight, this site plan will be attached to the development agreement, and we will have to develop the site in substantial conformance with what you see tonight. One other kind of small detail, but I think important to the city, on the south side of the site along Indian Creek there, you see the red dotted line. That's part of your regional pathway system. So we're agreeing to build that as part of this project as well.
Thank you.
No problem. So this is just to give everyone some perspective. This is the site plan kind of overlaid on that aerial map. And we have taken quite a bit of care to develop this site to be compatible with our surroundings. I know we all know the site very well, but just to be redundant, city's large wastewater treatment facility is across Indian Creek to the south there. To the west is a vacant property in ag currently, but zoned heavy industrial. North is Amalgamated Sugar. And then to the east, there's a variety of uses, some commercial, some more industrial, as well as a school and a church. So we've been very cognizant of our eastern boundary. We've shifted all the buildings to our west side. We've placed the smaller building, that Phase 3 building, along our east side. We've also put drive aisles and parking lots, as well as landscaping on that east side to make a nice buffer with those uses to the east. The aerial maps aren't necessarily doing a lot of justice to the area, so we wanted to give you guys kind of an on-the-ground view. East of the site is a commercial subdivision called the Broadmoor Business Park, and these are very new buildings, and we just wanted to kind of give the commission an update of what was going on out there. Again, developing very quickly. We think these structures are, similar in type and similar in use to what we're proposing, and we're going to be compatible with what new development is going on out there. One other interesting feature of this application, our property line actually goes across Indian Creek, and I don't think anyone knew that until we went out and surveyed it. So we found that some of the wastewater treatment facilities were actually encroaching on our property. So as a condition of this rezone, we're going to convey that area of land to the city and clean that up.
Thank you again.
One of the other things you'll need to analyze tonight is whether this rezone is in the best interest of the city, and of course, we believe it is. You need industrial space. It helps with economic development and creates job opportunities. When I was here in July, I showed you a similar slide about vacant industrial space. Unfortunately, it's gotten worse. The vacancy rates are lower, and this is an update from TOK Commercial as of October. Vacancy rate in the city of Nampa is 0.41%. Healthy vacancies would be 5%. And again, sort of going in the wrong direction, but when I was here in July, I told you that our research showed the market could absorb 3 million square feet. We're thinking that's more like 5 million per year for the foreseeable future. So
This is way too small of a project then.
that's right. Well, I think you'll be seeing me again in the near future. So again, we think this is in the best interest of the city to fill the demand for industrial. Okay, now getting to the hard part, design review. So I mentioned we are proposing a development agreement with this project. And in addition to the site plan, the development agreement also proposes some customized design review standards. As the land is currently zoned commercial, the city's design review process and standards apply. As soon as the property is rezoned to industrial, design review no longer applies. We recognize that this site is visible, at least one frontage from I-84, but we also recognize that this isn't a commercial development, this is industrial. So we took your standards in Chapter 34 and we had our architect customize those standards to essentially create a visually stimulating facade while still recognizing that this is an industrial building that will use, concrete construction, et cetera. So we're asking you tonight to adopt those modified or customized design review standards. Staff has a very good summary in the staff report about what's different from our standards that we're proposing versus your normal standards, and I'll go through those as well here in a moment. But using the customized standards, we had our architect generate these elevations. So if you were to accept our standards, this is our I-84 facing facade of phase one. So right off the bat, one of the big differences that we're asking for is that these design review standards only apply to the facades facing I-84. Everything else will be internal to our site and essentially not visible from the public. So this is what our standards would produce. You can see that, we have roofline variation with differing heights of the parapet, multiple colors, multiple textures, and then facade relief elements. And then on the right, in the bottom right there, that's kind of the percentage of facade change that we have going on. We also prepared a 3D mock-up. I think this does a better job showing the facade relief and the roofline variation. But again, if you were to accept our design review standards, this is what the building would look like. And we're happy to attach these plans to the development agreement as well.
How much different does the backside look from this side?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, it will look significantly different. The backside will be our
Warehouse doors.
warehouse doors. So it's going to be.
Or the other buildings will look that way too.
Well, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, the other buildings will have their primary facades with,
Okay.
presumably similar, retail or, customer or employee entrances, but they won't be beautified to the extent of this I-84 frontage.
Look like an industrial warehouse area.
Right, and because the I-84 is raised, so you'll still be able to see all those buildings.
No, I don't think so.
30, 40 feet tall.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, that's right. So this structure, you kind of lose perspective on the height because they're so long, but this will be a 38-foot wall and I believe about 40 and a half feet to the parapet. So it is a pretty tall building. Okay, and then lastly, the conditions of approval. I forgot to say it from the get-go, but thank you to planning and engineering staff, as always, extremely helpful in getting these teed up for you guys. We agree with the planning report in almost all respects, but we wanted a few clarifications in our conditions of approval. So on condition number 3, this relates to pressurized irrigation. Kind of just at the last hour here, I believe there's been some discussion with our engineers and the city engineer about the use of the city's pressurized irrigation system on site. I believe right now there's a question as to whether that's the best way to serve this property. So what we're asking for in the amendments to condition number 3 is just to leave that decision up to your city's engineer. and not require us to connect to the pressurized irrigation system. So what we're just saying is if we do connect, we will annex into the PI district. But if the city engineer decides that we should serve our site with an on-site well and a local irrigation system, we will do that as well, whatever he decides is best. 5 deals with the pathway I discussed earlier, and really we just want to make sure that there's a consensus about when we're going to deliver that pathway as complete. It currently just said at the time of development, and we're trying to pin down exactly when the pathway would be completed, and we're proposing that we'll complete it and dedicate the easement to the public before occupancy on phase 1. And then lastly, I'm sorry, losing my voice, on condition 6, this deals with the design review that I just went over extensively. As drafted, the staff report would have the standard design review conditions apply. We would ask for you to use our custom design review code that we've proposed. Again, just recognizing that this is an industrial building and we're doing our best to make it look as good as we can with the type of construction that it is. So that's all I have for you tonight. Of course, happy to stand for any questions, but we believe that the rezone makes sense here. It's the right location for the project. A lot of great transportation improvements in this area to support us that the city's done, and we'd ask for your approval.
I got a quick question for you. On that parking lot on the southwest corner, is that just strictly for cars, or is that going to be for semi-parking as well? Southeast corner, I'm sorry. That way.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Turner, the way we envision this parking lot being used is almost kind of an overflow parking. So all of the tenants, phases 1 through 3, would have the right to use this. We think it will be a mix of employee parking as well as some potential semi-parking as well.
What kind of fence do you have? My concern is you're right next to that school and you start parking semis in there. Little kids can get lost in semi tires pretty easily. So I just want to make sure we're protecting the school kids from being over there with semis.
Understood. Madam Chair, Commissioner Turner, I'm going to bring in our development guru, Srini.
Good evening. My name is Srinivas Nukala. I'm with LDK Ventures. Address is 3140 Peacekeeper Way, McClellan Park, California. A couple things I just wanted to clarify. There is an existing fence on the south side of that southeast parking lot, and it's a playground, and it's going to be used for trailer overflow parking right now. And we can install an additional fence as required. Yeah, we're not opposed to it. And then one additional clarification I wanted to make on the facades. For phase 1, the frontage on I-84 is going to be the building elevation we have indicated. And on the phase 2, the frontage facing the I-84 is going to be the docks. So in between both the buildings are shared truck court. So the entry points for the south building is going to be on the south side facing the sewer plant. And not to introduce any complexities, but phase 3 is just a indication of a proposed building, but we are also going through one lot split and retaining the existing zoning for that small parcel. It's about 6.6 acres. So we'll just keep it there, and there is continued interest for some retail and showroom type tenants there. So there is an opportunity for that kind of a development there, which would meet all of the design review guidelines from the city, Chapter 34. So just wanted to clarify a little bit on that. Okay. And we're also dedicating that roundabout right-of-way to the city as the end of the public access. So, thanks, Srini.
Is that roundabout big enough to
Yes,
accommodate?
it has been approved by the city engineer.
Okay.
Yep.
The trucks and whatnot.
Yep.
And any conversation with the school?
I approached the principals, and they haven't voiced any concerns. We actually have been moving all the dirt, which Jeff has mentioned earlier, 800,000 cubic yards. It takes about a year to haul off all of the dirt. And once the dirt is hauled off, we have to level the ground and bring soil to import and build the elevation. So We have been good neighbors. I have talked to the pastor from the church, and we have been doing dust control measures to make sure that there is no dust being affected for anyone visiting the church as well as the school. So we're taking care of that. So.
Thank you.
Are you taking the sugar beets back to California with you?
Well,
If you want to make a lot of money, find some way to get rid of those things. You see that big mound they got out there?
yep. It's been beet tailings that have been deposited for the last 5 decades.
Yeah.
Yep.
Find a way to use that, and you'll be a billionaire.
Well, yeah, we'll work on it.
All right. Thank you. Great plan.
Thanks, Srini. Any other questions? We're happy to answer them.
Not right now. We'll hear from staff and,
Okay, great. Thank you all.
hey, Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The action requested tonight is the zoning map amendment from BC to IL. That is a correction. It was noticed as BC PUD, which was an error with our GIS map. It was drawn incorrectly for some reason. The total site size, 42 acres. It currently BC zoned, proposing IL. Surrounding land uses I-84 to the north. To the south is the wastewater treatment plant. To the east is Norco and Awaken Church, both zone BC. And then to the west is IH, and that's currently ag land. History, this piece was annexed in 1976 and zoned to BC. We've had a couple of pre-application meetings for this development, for this parcel, I should say. The future land use map is commercial, and we'll be stretching it one parcel deep from either side. The utilities, city water and sewer are existing. The pressure irrigation is currently just over 300 feet to the east. Regarding the IL zone, there's a large variety of uses that are permitted either by right or conditionally. And I have that table if you want to look at those uses. The IL zone is intended to create, preserve, and enhance areas containing a wide range of manufacturing-related establishments, and is typically appropriate to areas providing a wide variety of sites with good rail or highway access. Regarding rezones, the proposed amendment needs to be in harmony with the comprehensive plan. Needs to provide proposed uses or set of uses that would be compatible with the area. Needs to establish an area of zoning compatible with the adjoining districts, not create a spot zone, and be in the interest of the public. Correspondence, the Parks Department, they are requesting the pathway. There was a little confusion on their part, stating that they wouldn't request it at this time, but this would be the time to do it, as there wouldn't be another application coming forward. So we've added the condition for the pathway into this request. The engineering department stated typical comments on it. I would say that if you have questions on the irrigation, pressure irrigation, that Daniel may be able to answer those questions. The state's scope of the proposed development will require a traffic impact study to be prepared and submitted for review. Regarding the future land use, it is commercial, and the proposed IL would not fit within that designation, but would be stretched. The change in zoning would increase the amount of industrial land, has been pointed out by the applicant. The property is surrounded by a variety of uses. Predominantly, it's industrial uses in the area, but there's also the church and the Idaho Arts Charter School adjacent. The wastewater treatment plant also next door. The businesses that would occupy this area would be those allowed in the IL zone. The pathway would be a 20-foot easement, 10-foot wide pathway per the bike and ped master plan. Regarding the development agreement, one was drafted by the applicant, which includes the concept plan, design review requirements. The design review guidelines drafted by the applicant had several differences from those in our current code. Some of the differences, so the facades considered in the proposal, it would just be the facades adjacent or facing I-84. Our current code applies to all the facades. And there's differences between the primary facade and the other facades in our current code. The screening under the proposed development agreement, screening of mechanical units and trash receptacles is not required. Our current code requires those to be screened. Glazing, the proposed development agreement requires 5% of glazing on the facade facing I-84. Our current code requires 25% for the primary facades. Materials proposed, unpainted and untextured concrete was added as an acceptable material, where the current code would require only painted and textured concrete. Material change, 40% required, 40% change is required under the proposed code. 50% is required under our current. Fencing proposed, there's no restriction on the fencing type. Our current code would restrict it to ornamental fencing, so it would restrict chain link and other fencing types such as that. Pathways, no pathways would be required under the proposed code. Pedestrian pathways are required under our current code. And that's just access between buildings, that type of pedestrian pathway. So there's several of the buildings in the Broadmoor subdivision, which is adjacent, have completed design review because the area is partly zoned BC. So that's the industrial buildings, as was pointed out by the applicant. Those have all gone through design review and were approved. As well as Idaho Arts Charter School, that has also gone through design review. All of the buildings that have completed design review have been analyzed and approved to meet the city design review standards at the time. Because this is in our comprehensive plan as commercial, that's why we're requiring design review. When it was added as commercial at the time, it was viewed as a gateway essentially to the city, as can be visible by I-84. So staff would recommend that those design review requirements be in place as written in code. Regarding the recommended conditions as stated by the applicant, the pathway, we are willing to change the conditions to allow the pathway to be developed as part of the condition of occupancy. That's fine for staff to consider. And the other conditions are in the staff report. There is a potential motion for you, and I will stand for any questions.
Did you review the chapter 34 changes that they requested? I mean, really review them carefully?
Commissioner, I reviewed them. The things that I wrote in the table there were the high-level changes, the most concerning ones.
They're not slipping something through because somebody wasn't paying attention.
Right.
Okay.
Parker, quick question on the 25% for primary facades. What would constitute a primary facade in this project?
Commissioner, the primary facades would be those facing major roadways such as I-84, also interior parking lots. So those facing the parking lots or I-84. As written in our code, there's only we're only allowed to have 2 primary facades per building. So only 2 walls on each building will be considered primary facades.
And then only 25% of those 2 walls would be required for, okay.
Correct, yeah. As we've had multiple industrial type buildings go through design review, the design review committee has waived glazing requirements in the past. We can't guarantee that those will be waived with future projects, but that's something that they've done with past projects. With alternatives, I should say.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll go to public hearing. I have nobody signed up. Is there anybody present that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this proposal? Okay. Do we have questions for the applicant? Anybody want the applicant to come back up and answer any questions?
I think so. I think there were just some things I'd like to discuss with the commission, though.
Well, I'd entertain a
What about
motion.
design review?
Hmm?
Do we want to hear anything else? I'd like to hear kind of a comment from
All right.
the applicant on the design guidelines. 25% of a 40-foot tall by, 1,000-foot long wall is a lot of square footage of glass. It's not going to get washed or.
Thank you,
Just
Madam
kinda-
Chair. And if, Parker, could you flip back to your summary, please? So we kind of, Madam Chair, Commissioner Van Acker, we sort of arrived at the same conclusion that you did. We have requested several changes to screening and pathways and things like that. I think we can all agree that with a building of this scale, when you have commercial design guidelines, they simply don't make sense. We don't want to have pathways that connect through our site because we don't want people walking in the trucking lanes, for instance. But really, kind of where the rubber meets the road on this project is the glazing. And I think you hit the nail on the head by speaking up on that one first. So, as you know, glass and glazing just isn't conducive to the industrial style use. And as Parker mentioned, a lot of the industrial projects that have gone through design review have sought waivers from that and have been granted such a waiver. We don't want to leave ourselves in that position, 4 months from now, as we continue to spend money cleaning up the site, moving forward with the acquisition of the property. We need some certainty that we can build these structures in a way that our end users can use them. And Srini will talk more about this, but essentially the glazing and the glass prevents us and our users from using that warehouse space to the maximum extent possible, shelving and things like that. Mm-hmm. So that's why we've asked for the reduction in glazing. And in lieu of that, we've offered more materials and textures and things like that to provide, the same facade relief. And so with that, those are essentially why we've asked for the changes, just to accommodate the project while still making this facade on 84 really look like a nice building for the city when people drive through. And I'd love it if Srini would chime in more on the glazing issue.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, with regards to the glazing, not to nitpick on the percentages, but we do have 6% glazing that works out. What we are proposing is a change in the paint texture to make it look like an alternative glazing arrangement, similar to what we have done on the Amazon in Nampa. I was in charge of building it, so that's an example that I'm using. So it'll, without discounting the requirements, we understand that the buildings are going to be a gateway for the city, and we propose to provide a good-looking building, and there are alternatives in doing so. And instead of going a glazing route, we propose to do it based on a change in paint across the facade, and that's what we are doing. And if you combine the change in paint color, it equates to about 26%. And with regards to the materials, it's not our intent to use unpainted or untextured concrete, but we just want to have our options open, as well as the material change. And we don't necessarily plan on installing any fencing if there is no requirement, but if there is safety concerns on the southeast portion with the school, we definitely will abide by the city code and put a chain link fence. But there is an existing chain link fence there already. So, and with regards to the screening, that's one of the things that I don't want to discount about it, but if there are going to be mechanical units on a larger roof facing the I-84, even if you screen them, you can actually tell them that there are boxes on the roof, so you're not real. And then the tilt-up is going to be 36 foot tall, and the parapet will cover a portion of the rooftop units, and it's very unlikely that you can see all of them, but you will bound to see some. So there is no getting around it. Either it looks like a nice box or just a rooftop unit, similar to what is on the Norco building adjoining our property. So we propose to deliver a good-looking building for the gateway. So thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I'm glad you brought up the Amazon building, because I was gonna ask, that's what I was picturing in my mind with the
Yes.
alternative to the glazing, so.
And this is Idaho, not California, but I don't really see the reason to have so much glass along an interstate. I mean, you're just tempting people to shoot the glass out. I mean, I'll go out there next week and try it, you know?
What are you thinking?
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, now in a motion for,
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I didn't even say a motion for whatever. So it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I was gonna ask staff, whoever wants to field this question, what happens if, well, not if anymore, but when the wastewater treatment plant needs to expand from its current footprint?
Build another one.
Do we just go northwest?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, the wastewater facilities plan does identify locations where we are looking, where we would need to expand within the design life of the plant, and this is not a location that we would be looking
Okay,
at.
so this location is not gonna grow? Okay.
You know, I get that I like the concession that he's saying that, you know, under the current zoning, it's commercial, but they're requesting a rezone to IL, which would then not require them to have the design review. And so for them to come in and say that we're gonna try and meet the city halfway here and do some things. But I do recognize, and I was here for a design review meeting, I don't know, several months ago, and the school that's just 2 doors down was going through a new addition, and they were going through a design review. And so we were really concerned about what that school looked like, but from that same street, we'll be able to see the ends, the east ends of Phase 1 and Phase 2, and we'll be able to see at least 3 of the Phase 3 facades. And so, you know, if it was me, I liked what they're doing to say that we'll do some of this stuff, but I would like to see them add the east ends of those buildings at least to their standards and expand that. And then I don't know what to do with Phase 3 because he's saying that there might split that off and that might be commercial at some point. So I don't know how you would designate that, but I would say that at least the north, the south, and the east facades of that Phase 3 would probably need to be improved as well. As part of the development agreement.
Talking the south between the two buildings, where's the truck?
So if you're sitting on Shannon Drive, you'll be able to see the east ends of Phase 1 and Phase 2, right? And so, like I said, it's right there by the church, right there by the school. They had to go through design review. So I think that it would only be fair that You know, because I get that they're commercial buildings, and the interior of those where they're doing their loading, yeah, that doesn't need to be anything, but, you know, the ends, that's pretty visible. But then phase 3, I mean, you can see the south of it right there from the road. North, you can see it from I-84. And then as you're coming down from Northside Boulevard, that east side of that phase 3 would be very visible, so.
Would you be thinking of something along the lines like a mural?
No, I'm thinking along the lines of using their own standards that they're proposing, to just bring them around the building.
You're talking the north side of phase 1 and the south side of phase 2, and then the east and west ends of the other, of both buildings, but the center where all the truck traffic's gonna be.
Well, I was
loading
thinking
docks.
the east ends of phase 1 and phase 2. I mean, the south side of phase 2, that's facing, you know, the
Wastewater.
sanitation plant,
Yeah.
whatever, right? So I don't think I would be too concerned with that. But the east ends, yes. And then phase 3, which is the small building, which is in question, it might be something else totally different if they do their lot split, right? But at this point, as part of the development agreement, I would put it in there that phase 3, you would probably want to have, at the very least, the south and the north facades improved to their design review standards proposed.
I like that.
Yeah, if you want to make a motion. Since you have it figured out.
Well, there is gonna be that walking path between the wastewater treatment plant and.
Yeah,
the
but that's
south
not
side
gonna
of the
hide
wall.
anything.
That's true, yeah.
No, I think what you're saying makes sense, especially on that smaller building that
Yeah.
faces the freeway.
You're recommending they don't have to do the 25% glazing?
No, I get what they're saying, and I totally agree. It is, you know, you're mostly concerned if they're, because what he's saying is, we want to pencil this thing out. And if you're going to hold us to 25% glazing, it's not going to be a very useful building. Plus, it's going to be too expensive to build in the first place. And if we are that short on that kind of building, then I think that we should, you know, especially when they're making some concessions saying, you rezone us to IL, we don't need design reviews. So I think that we can meet them that way.
Well, that's why they led with, we're taking all the beet tailings out of here.
Exactly, yeah.
We get it. I mean, yeah, we read it.
Yeah.
But. I
Parker, you got
agree with what you're saying.
a motion? You have that on there somewhere? Because I can read.
You want my copy?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we move to recommend approval of the zoning map amendment from BC to IL zoning in the zoning district for light manufacturing, warehousing, and distribution facility at 0 Shannon Drive for LDK Ventures LLC, representing Northside Logistics Center LLC, with all the conditions of staff, but would also encourage that there be a development agreement between the developer and the city of Nampa. And that development agreement would require that they add their proposed design review standards applied to the north side of phase 1, the east facade of phase 1, the east facade of phase 2, and the north and south facades of phase 3.
And they had also suggested condition number 3 about the irrigation, and also condition number 5 about the deeding that path after the occupancy of building 1 is complete.
Yeah, and I think that Parker mentioned that the
Those are
path deed that had been changed in the conditions already. Is that correct, Parker?
Commissioner, it's not in the conditions, but I can add it.
Okay.
That was the intent of that condition anyway.
Okay, so I would say that as far as changing the conditions, that we do adopt the proposed changes from the applicant, that condition number 3, that the irrigation hookup would be at the discretion of the city engineer, that we do agree to their design review standards as proposed and assigned to the facades as described in the proposed development agreement, and that number 5, that the proposed path or the required path, that it is determined that it will be in place by occupancy of phase 1.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the zoning map amendment with all the changes to the development agreement?
Well, go ahead and repeat them.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Good job, Matt.
Yeah, great job, Matt.
That was a mouthful. I'm gonna take
Was.
this month off.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Okay, public hearing number 6, conditional use permit for utility-owned building structure or use. We have the applicant here for that? She is online. Okay. Okay,
He is online?
we're ready for you whenever you are.
All right. Good evening. My name is Denise Clark with Fox Engineers. Our office is located at 2775 West Navigator in Meridian. And tonight I'm speaking on behalf of TDS Metrocom. We've submitted an application for a conditional use permit for our utility building to be located at 7 5th Street North. This building will be used for housing equipment to generate the fiber network for TDS to assist in providing fiber to the home. This building and paved area will be fenced and surrounded by a wall and a locked security gate, as well as landscaping for security and screening.
Okay. All right, we'll hear from staff and we may have some questions for you.
Good.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The action requested from you tonight is the approval or denial of the conditional use permit for placement of a utility-owned building in an RP zone at 7 5th Street North. The property is currently zoned RP, which does require a conditional use permit for utility-owned buildings or structures. It's surrounded by RP and BC on the northwest, RML and BC to the southwest, RP and RMH to the northeast, and RML and BC to the southeast. This means that there is a combination of commercial and multifamily uses existing in this area. The requirements for your decision when you're reviewing a conditional use permit are the 3 criteria that we've discussed on numerous occasions: compatibility with the livability of the area, that it maintains and provides a convenient living and working environment, and will enhance the successful operation of the surrounding area. So the only correspondence that we received was from the building department that they will need to comply with Title IV, of course, and Nampa Engineering requested that street access onto 5th Street North, and that the project coordinate with other projects in the area that are working on utilities at this time. I believe there's a Starbucks going in that area, and they wanted them to coordinate with them. The surrounding land uses will be some townhomes and a Starbucks to the north in the future, and existing apartment complexes on the east, south, and across Northside Boulevard to the west. As far as appropriateness goes, the location, size, and design and the operating characteristics of this project should not adversely affect the livability of the area. Design and site planning, the project will provide a functional living environment and will be as attractive as the nature of use because it will be subject to design review by city staff. As far as community goes, the project will provide an essential service to the community or the region. For parking, applicant states that the building will be accessed by a paved driveway, which will include parking for the utility service vehicles. The building will be periodically accessed for service, but will not typically be occupied by an employee. So there are very few potential conditions of approval. Design review is one of them. Building code is another, and is granted for the duration of the use on the property and not transferable to any other location. These are your potential motions, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Christie?
Christie, that's on a pretty big gateway, right? I mean, north side. What kind of screening or things do we have required for that? Is there anything required?
So if they are proposing a fence, fencing will need to meet our design review codes, and that is a monumental or ornamental fence that will have to go at least on the north side boulevard side. An example would be down the road further, just went in a brand new plumbing building that has an ornamental fence that went in around it. It would have to be similar to that.
Any other
I'm
questions?
wondering about like landscaping. Do they have landscaping requirements there that,
There is already some landscaping on north side that would be outside of their boundary, but they would have a minimal amount of landscaping. And that can be done, to enhance the fencing. So if they wanted to do another type of fencing and they wanted to enhance it with more landscaping, that would be a possibility as well.
yeah, because I think that at least along the north side, I think that we would probably want to require something above and beyond what might be required just to screen so that you don't have basically a basic
Utility
utility
building.
building. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll open public hearing. I have nobody signed up, but is there anybody here who'd like to speak for, against, or undecided on this? Okay. Do we want to have the applicant come back up or ask her any more questions?
I think it would be good if she could address, maybe if they have a plan for how they're gonna treat at least the north side facade.
Can you come
Yes,
back?
here I am.
Okay. Go.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, we have proposed that we are going to be putting fencing, 6-foot fence with a security lock around the entire area there. So, and then we'll also be landscaping with evergreen and deciduous trees, as well as some ornamental grasses and boulders to make it look like part of the neighborhood. That north side, I know, is a concern, so we'll work with the design review committee to make sure that we are addressing any concerns that they may have, that we go above and beyond to make that blend in with the neighborhood.
Answer your question?
Yeah, if it's going through design review, I think that'll be fantastic, yeah.
Anybody else with questions for the applicant? Okay, now I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing's closed. Seems like
Thank you.
a nice little thing there.
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve the conditional use permit for the utility-owned building, structure, or use in an RP zoning district at 7 Fifth Street North for Ryan Cutler representing TDS MetroCom LLC with all conditions of staff and conclusions of law.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the CUP. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I have to read my little thing. This CUP will become effective 15 calendar days from the date of this hearing unless an appeal has been filed with the Planning and Zoning Department with the appropriate fee. No action should be taken on the CUP until the appeal period has concluded. The applicant must confirm with Planning and Zoning staff there have been no appeals. All right. Now we're on to number 7. Another conditional use permit for 8 residential units behind 519 Caldwell Boulevard. Pictures back there, okay.
You're gonna bring them up here, aren't you, Rodney? Good thought you had there, buddy.
I brought that mainly for the public.
We'd like them to look at it also. Rodney, why don't you stay 30 seconds to that direction, then turn around 30 seconds in this direction?
Exactly.
Just pretend you're Vanna.
I'm Xandra King, and I'm with BRS Architects at 1010 South Alante Place, Suite 100 in Boise, and I'm representing the property owner and applicant Susan Wanacott. We are applying for a conditional use permit on her property at 523 Caldwell Boulevard. And the idea is that it has an existing building there that has a school with quite a bit of space in the rear of the school. So she would like to make use of that space to benefit the city by bringing in a little bit of affordable residential. And so we are applying for the conditional use permit. To give you a little bit of background information, when we put the application in, there was thought about expanding to, you can see in the red map up there, the property to the southwest corner. But that was under negotiations, so we didn't know how that was going to go. Just recently, congratulations to Ms. Wanacott, she was able to sign a contract for that property. And so eventually, and hopefully next month, we'll be doing the identical application for that property as well. So it will all become a single development. We were not supposed to present the entire project this evening, but I wanted you to have that background information. When you look at the site plan, it is a little different than the one that was in the application for that reason, because we had to take into account the fact that we are taking traffic all the way through both sites. So the new site plan is on the right there. We had to reduce the number of residential units and commercial in order to benefit the entire site, basically, and allow the parking that would be needed there. We've read the staff report. We believe that the staff is in favor of the project because it will make use of infill development to bring affordable housing in, and it's not exactly fronting Caldwell Boulevard, so it's not ideal for something else like retail. What we'd like to do is some ground floor commercial on that three-story new building, which would be most likely offices, and then 2 stories of residential above, which would be 4 apartment units above. I think that's all that I wanted to present to you this evening. The conditions were, the recommended conditions of approval were pretty straightforward. We have no problems with those. And so that's all I have.
Okay, we'll hear from staff and see what we got going on. Hey, Christy.
Hey, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The action requested from you tonight is for approval or denial of a conditional use permit for multifamily apartments in a BC zone located at 519 Caldwell Boulevard in what was going to be 2 separate structures, now is going to be 1. The new request is for 1 building with 4 residential units and some commercial space on the ground floor to provide access to the future acquisition of the property to the southwest to expand this development. So there were some site revisions. So my recommendation in going forward would be to allow up to 8 residential units. And then that way they have the flexibility to design this site according to what will fit for them in the future. This property is zoned BC, which requires a CUP for multifamily use. It is completely surrounded by BC zone properties with commercial uses to the north, east, and south, and a mobile home park to the west. So this is the same conditional use criteria as before. Should include compatibility with the abutting properties, maintains or provides a convenient living and working environment, and will enhance the successful operation of the surrounding area. We received correspondence from the fire department. It is 1.4 miles from station number 4 with a 6-minute response time. The police department indicated that this would provide 24 new residents, which I think they base that on the 8 units, so we cut that in half, which equates to 0.04 officers and 0.01 staff. Nampa School District does have concerns about capacity at Nampa High School, and they do encourage sidewalks and lighting for bus stops when we have multifamily developments like this. Nampa Building Department has requested that they comply with Title IV building codes, and Nampa Engineering just wants to make sure that they go through the standard plan review process with their building permit. So these multifamily residential structures are within 300 feet of Caldwell Boulevard right-of-way and are proposed at 34 feet in height. We now require a mixed-use component under those circumstances, and that is why they are proposing commercial on the ground floor. This apartment structure could provide multiple tenant spaces or a single tenant space. We don't clarify how much. At least 5% of the total net acreage of all the residential buildable area shall be retained as recreational space. Those numbers will be dialed in with the building permit to make sure that they meet code. They did provide a certain amount of recreational space that I will come to here shortly. For appropriateness, the location, size, and design and operating characteristics of the project will not adversely affect the livability of the abutting properties. For site design, the project will provide functional living and civic environment and will be as attractive as the nature of the use warrants. It will be subject to design review, is actually scheduled for design review this coming Monday in front of the committee. For community, the project will provide an essential service to the community or region as housing is needed at this point in time. Parking, the applicant shows areas of striped parking on their concept site plan with access from Caldwell Boulevard that is shared with the existing commercial building. These are the potential conditions of approval that are listed in your staff report and any others that you may see fit to impose this evening. And these are your potential motions. Again, I have changed on the screen to read up to 8 residential units to allow them some flexibility in their site layout. I will stand for any questions.
Questions for Christie? Okay, we'll open public hearing. I have nobody signed up. Is there anybody present that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this proposal? Anybody have questions for the applicant?
Make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Madam Chair, I'll just go ahead and get moving. I move to approve the conditional use permit to allow up to 8 residential units behind an existing 4,400 square foot commercial space in a BC district at 519 Caldwell Boulevard for Gavin King, representing Susan and Edward Wanacott, with all conclusions of staff and conditions.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the conditional use permit. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I gotta read my own thing again. This CUP will become effective 15 calendar days from the date of this hearing unless an appeal has been filed with the Planning and Zoning Department with the appropriate fee. No action should be taken on this CUP until the appeal period has concluded. The applicant must confirm with Planning and Zoning staff there have been no appeals. All right. Thank you.
Wasn't that the last one? We go home now?
No.
No?
Okay, the final public hearing item on our agenda is a zoning map amendment from BC to RS 8.5 for Stevens Place subdivision. Sounds slightly familiar.
Hi, my name is Pat Caldwell, TO Engineers, 332 Broadmoor Way, Nampa. And yes, as you've read in your packets, we're looking for a rezone for a portion of the property to RS 8.5 to create 17 single-family lots. The remaining parcel on the southeast corner there will be consisted of 2 commercial lots. The existing site's 6.25 acres, and it's on Middleton Road in Iowa. I'll take an access for the residential portion from Iowa and access for the commercial portion off of Middleton there, as you can see. It's an infill project, so existing city utilities are available in both streets. We've been working with the engineering department to figure out which pressure zone we need to utilize for that. We agree with all those conditions. Sewer, water, and pressurized irrigation there. As you remember, we came back here probably 6 months ago or so, got approved through P&Z, got denied at City Council. The majority of the landowners and City Council folks said if this RS8 with a little bit of commercial, we'd support it. So we came back with RS 8.5 and some commercial. And
Fingers crossed.
there's a lot less people here, so I'm taking that as a good sign. The one concern that I did see, we had 3 letters of support in the packet, as opposed to 40 against last time. But the one concern that was there was access, and I can understand that concern. However, just given the fact that we're an infill project, there's existing roadways and setbacks from those roadways that we have to maintain. That's why you can kind of see the our residential access is basically directly between, halfway between Middleton and Carriage Hill, and our commercial access is directly between Victoria and Iowa, and that's just to get the proper separations to meet standards. With that, I'd stand for any questions.
Any questions at this time? Nope, we probably will later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Christie.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The request before you tonight is a zoning map amendment from BC to RS 8.5 and for the preliminary plat for Stevens Place subdivision located on the northwest corner of Iowa and Middleton Roads. The zoning in this area is RS 8.5 to the north, south, and west, all part of Carriage Hill subdivisions, original and north. The east is a BC zoned parcel, which is currently vacant. The history on this parcel is it was annexed and zoned to RA in July of 2002. In 2004, it was rezoned a portion to from, can't even read my own notes, to BC with ordinance 3357 with a development agreement that pertains to just the BC zone and how, what uses would be provided within that. Single family is not one of those disallowed uses. So we didn't feel like it was appropriate for them to have to do a development agreement modification because it actually didn't really apply to what they were asking. The portion that was zoned at that time to RS 8.5 is now Carriage Hill North. July 2021, rezoned to RD with the preliminary plat for duplex-style townhomes, which was denied by City Council. City utilities are available, and they will be required to construct utilities to and through the property following the city's master plan. The Fire Station 4 is 3.4 miles away with a 9-minute response time, and the nearest police station is 4 miles away. So the applicable regulations for a rezone that you need to consider in your decision are listed in your staff report. The correspondence that was received, we did have some public input. Generally, it was in support of the project, and they appreciated the developers' efforts to listen to their concerns, but they are concerned about access onto Iowa. There were some other concerns about water shortages in the area and increased traffic. You also received some emails and letters over the last few days and now in front of you this evening with some concerns. The building department wants them to meet the Title IV regulations, and there were standard engineering comments. So the future land use map shows this as commercial, but because they plan to develop single-family residential, the medium-density residential designation can be stretched onto this property, which would allow for the RS 8.5 zoning. The density proposed for Stevens Place is 2.72, which is down from the 5.76 that was previously proposed. The schools that will service this development is Nampa High School at 2 miles away, Lone Star Middle School at 1 mile away, and Owyhee Elementary at 827 feet away. So for zoning, it is among our general purposes in our code to promote orderly and systematic development and development patterns, which preserve and enhance public health, safety, and welfare. Staff notes that any site development will be regulated by building permit review and through design review for the BC zoned properties. This project proposes to rezone 5.06 acres from BC to RS 8.5, leaving 1.1 acres as BC for those 2 commercial lots. Since this is being constructed with the RS 8.5 zone, all standard building lots shall meet or exceed the 8,500 square foot in area. The smallest standard building lot is 8,503 square feet. All standard lots do demonstrate the lot width and depth required. They will be required to dedicate 40 feet from the center line on Iowa. The city arborist has reviewed and approved the landscape plan as was submitted. And since the project is under 5 acres, they will be required to have 10% qualified open space per our new code. This project proposes 10.14% open space, and that will include some grassy area with meandering walking paths and benches. The suggested conditions of approval are based on the comments that were received by the agencies and any others that you see fit to impose this evening. Here are your potential motions, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Christie?
I have a question for the engineer, if he could step up. Sorry, the other engineer, our engineer.
How many stood up?
2. And 3 more wanted to. A lot of concern about the access not being on Middleton. I know the answers, but to the public, can you give them a nice answer to make them feel better?
So access on a corner parcel where there is development all the way around is, with no stub streets in, is what it is. We can't deny access to a parcel. We have reviewed the access points, and they're within what we find acceptable. Yeah, that's
What about
probably.
the comment, and this is a valid point, I think, that Iowa coming down to Middleton, it's downhill, and we've been fortunate so far the last couple of years, we haven't had a lot of snow, but would that be considered a high priority intersection? Would that get faster treatment than other ones would because of the hill?
That is certainly plays into the prioritization of our snow plowing and sanding and salting efforts. And so that does play into it. I don't know right off the top of my head where it falls within the priority.
But they do increase the.
But they do look at that in areas where there is grade that cause challenges and treat it accordingly.
So Victoria is not an option to come in off that street that's already there?
There is some significant grade differences between the parcel and Victoria.
Daniel, there's a landscape buffer there, and Carriage Hill will not grant easement to that street.
Yep, and that would be the other side of it.
So it's a private road?
It's a public road, but there is a lot owned by the HOA between the road and this parcel.
Christie, can you show me on their plat where their open space amenities, is that lot 13? Just north of the entry, is that what they have for their amenities? Up here, and then he gets up in this area, yeah.
Yeah, that would be 13, yeah.
And I think that's the only that they have, right?
Sorry, Commissioner Garner, it has a pathway that goes through the center of it and out to Middleton here. So it connects internally and then out.
Okay, go to public hearing. I have people signed up this time. Okay, for the proposal, Jim Durst, you don't wish to speak, but want to be on the record. Cheryl Higley, you want to speak. Okay. Hopefully this will stay.
just a moment. Oh, it's not. I knew I should have made hard copies. Can you pull up the from the one that has the lot numbers on it? I guess that one's fine too. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay, good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm Cheryl Higley at 12441 South Abbott Downing Way here in Nampa. And I'm happy to say that I'm here tonight in support of this project. My neighbors and I had hoped this property would be developed as commercial, but if it's going to be developed as residential, this is the optimum we could have hoped for. We are very thankful to the developer. Thank you so much. And we commend him for his conscientious effort to have the development be compatible with and agreeable to the residents in the surrounding neighborhoods. The one concern we have, which has already been mentioned, is the one exit onto Iowa Avenue, which is a 2-lane road with no turn lanes and, to my knowledge, with no projections to increase that. As you can see on the slide that is up there now, that Christy put up, well, maybe you can't on that one. This exit is adjacent to the exits for Carriage Hill, the Ridge to the south, and Carriage Hill North to the north. This intersection is where the school bus stop is for children in our neighborhoods. There's a slope in the road west of this intersection, and with heavy traffic going to and from Red Hawk Golf Course and Lake Lowell in the spring and summer especially, exiting, sorry, I lost my place. Exiting can be quite challenging, and with this proposed exit as well, with more residents in the yet-to-be-completed Carriage Hill West and the already approved but yet-to-be-built Spyglass Ridge, it will make it even more challenging and perhaps even hazardous, as all residents in Stevens Place will predominantly be making a left out of the subdivision, as all schools, all shopping, all goods and services are east and or north, which would require a left-hand turn. A good solution would be to have one exit or a secondary exit onto Middleton Road, where there's already a center turn lane, the entire block, which would provide safer and easier access. Perhaps lot number 14, of course, this before I knew that was the only green space, perhaps number 14 could be used for an access road, and lot number 13, which is Greenbelt, could be used for a residential lot instead, so that the developer would still have a total of 17 residences. I was hoping that's slide number 2 now, but the entry to Stevens Place could be combined with the entry to the commercial business area, such as the one on South Miller Way, which provides a beautiful entry to the neighborhood as well as easy access to the Chevron station located at Middleton Road and Iowa Avenue. So this is a good project, and I represent a lot of neighbors who couldn't be here tonight, but we think this would make it even better. And with that, I ask you to please consider our possible solution. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, and Madam Chair, I had a neighbor who couldn't be here that had 3 questions that he wanted to see if I could have answered, that he could ask.
Okay.
Number 1, will the curb and gutter be installed on Iowa and replace the asphalt path that's currently there? It appears that will be the case on Middleton. Number 2, is there a play area or park for residents to use? Number 3, what does access to the commercial properties look like? The plat provided doesn't give a lot of context for the buildings themselves and parking. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Michelle Okay, she didn't want to speak anyways. I can't read her last name. She's got flourishy handwriting. Okay, there's nobody signed up for against. We have some undecided. Leslie and John Harrier, you don't wish to speak?
No, but I'll change it to 4. Approving. I just wanted to see what was being presented.
Okay, Tom and Allison Bilello.
Come on.
Thank you, thank you. And
I like to speak.
okay, come on up.
I'm Allison Bolello at 11349 West Timken. And again, I agree everything that she said, and I want to thank you guys, and I want to thank the city council, and I want to thank Mr. Pat for listening to everybody, coming to decisions, and just listening and doing what we needed to do. The question I have is, yes, the access is horrible, and no matter what they're going to do, but I want to change that, yes, I approve of this. I have a question. Can we have, at least to make the entrance into the new development halfway better, by making a turn lane into the development from Iowa, where they can make a turn right, at least make a new lane for them? Like where the red is, if you go towards the yellow, into their development on Iowa, to make a turn lane, to give them something?
I don't understand why that would make it safer.
It would be safer, they would have an extra lane to turn into, because there's still so much
But it's so
traffic.
close to the corner, people won't be going 50 miles an hour. They'll
Yeah,
just-
but at least it gives them something to go, somewhere else to go. I mean, it's not gonna solve the problem of coming down the
Yeah,
hill,
yeah,
going
that's-
in,
that's
going
the
out.
problem is coming out, but there's really no way to solve that.
No,
we
I just
can-
thought maybe.
We can certainly ask the engineering, they can answer that question for us.
I mean,
As
it's-
to why or why not.
Yeah, it would solve everything if we could have Middleton, but we're not going to,
Yeah,
so, okay. Thank you, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, David Morris. Am I saying your last name right or no?
It is, and it's the same last name as Michelle.
Yes, okay.
Hey, Madam Chair. Oh, my word. It's just. He's not entertained with my trick here. Anyway, my name is David Morris, 12355 South Abbott Downing Way, Nampa, Idaho. So I was undecided because I didn't know what he was going to put up on the board, but I'm pretty happy with what he's done, and I'm glad that it meets, that it's the same as the surrounding areas. Kind of got my question answered about the Carriage Hill not granting access to that street. Two words come to my mind: eminent domain. But there has to be. I mean, where's the sensibility here? Where's the reasoning? There's no reason why they shouldn't allow access to that city street. I don't know if somebody needs to be brought in on some negotiations, or if they just didn't like the last proposal and still have a bad taste in their mouth, that's why they're not coming to the table. But if we could maybe reconsider the access onto Middleton, would be much easier and safer all the way around, if that's even a possibility. But besides that, I want to thank the developer for taking into consideration our concerns, and he's definitely come to the table with a great proposal. Just the access is my only point of concern. Thank you for all you do, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody present that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this proposal that didn't sign up? We get the applicant come back up here. You can solve everybody's problems, right?
I'll take a shot. So as far as the three questions that Ms. Higley brought, the sidewalk, the pathway on Iowa is scheduled to stay an asphalt pathway for right now, with a concrete pathway being added to the Middleton side so that you've got continuous access all the way along the frontages there. The play area and park is that lot 13 that we've got there with the pathway through it and the benches and the open space. Then the commercial buildings, I wish I could tell you exactly what they're going to look like, but just given the lot sizes and the relatively small size of that, we're thinking it's probably going to be professional buildings, eye doctors, dentists, something along those lines. It's just not big enough really for anything
7-Eleven.
larger than that.
Not big enough for 7-Eleven.
No, well, it doesn't have enough access for 7-Eleven or a coffee shop or probably anything like that that's
coffee
going to
shop
have a
would be nice.
high.
All that development along there, everybody always says, coffee shop, coffee shop. Every development, they talk about it, not a one's ever been built. I don't know,
Yes.
the coffee shop people just don't seem to care.
They're not here.
There's quite a bit of commercial kind of up and down that corridor too.
Yeah.
And I think it's been there for about 10 or 12 years and it's not
Not
really
been
flying
developed.
off the shelves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's probably got something to do with
Right.
it also.
Thank you for what you did.
Oh, you're welcome.
Did you try and negotiate with Carriage Hill about that Victoria thing since you've changed the plan?
We have, and it's twofold. And it's, it's private property and they've got to get their HOA on top of it. And they're not willing to do that right now. And also, there's also a piece where it's like a 30-foot drop from there down to
Okay.
that. So that takes up a whole bunch of area also. So it's not just them digging
It's
their
not an
heels in.
easy
It's
access.
also just
Yeah.
the earth right there is a little troublesome too.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, but we have tried to make the access as best we can. Got access up on both sides. We're keeping the residential separate from the commercial just because we don't like to mix those two traffic patterns as is standard.
As long
Trying
as
to-
the fire department is okay with it.
Right.
That's the important thing.
Yeah, so we'll meet all the fire department regulations and they're in support of it. I was trying to see if there's any other questions. As far as like widening out the roadways or anything like that, we have been working with the engineering department on that. There's a roundabout that's scheduled to go in there at a certain point. That's obviously gonna change traffic patterns because then at that point you're taking rights out of everything and going around the loop
We'll
and back
ask
out.
Daniel.
But we have been working with them on that. I'm not sure as far as adding a right-hand lane, whether that would be feasible that quick out of an intersection and still meet city standards, et cetera.
Anybody else have any questions for him?
Thank you.
Daniel, you want to come up and tell us why we can't have a turn lane there?
Madam Chair, Pat hit it on the head with the distances from the intersection and that. It's not overly feasible to put in a right turn pocket there. As well as for the volume of traffic that is there, it is certainly not warranted and would not appreciably improve any type of safety in that application.
And the sidewalk's not going on Iowa because,
There is the sidewalk, it's just an asphalt pathway rather than a concrete sidewalk.
it's going to stay that way forever, or is it down the road? We don't know.
Currently, under the current plan for the pedestrian stuff, that's what we have there. That doesn't mean that plans can't change, but
Right.
that is what it is today.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Daniel? All right. Somebody needs to make him.
I'll move we close public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed.
Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and make a motion that, unless anyone has any comment, I don't want to.
No.
I move to recommend approval to City Council of the zoning map amendment for BC to RS 8.5 zoning districts and subdivision preliminary plat for Stevens Place subdivision, including 17 single-family lots and 2 commercial lots and 4 common lots. For Patrick Colwell, representing Blackhawk Investments, Idaho, with all conditions listed in staff report, conditions listed in staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve this zoning map amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that goes to the council.
And a huge thank you to the
Yes, thank you,
developer.